Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello.
What you sipping on?
Just a diet squirt grapefruit soda. I
That
uh,
sounds
I am
nice.
trying to drink more. I mean, people probably think that's besides alcohol, that's the only thing that I drink. But I drink a lot of caffeine, so I'm trying to back off a little bit on the caffeine.
Yeah, I had a Coke earlier, so I have an Aquafina next to me right now, which
Fair, fair.
I know. But what was I going to say though? Oh yeah, I am. My voice is a little hoarse. I'm getting over what I think was a cold, or the start of a cold that I stopped, or perhaps mold I've been breathing in. We'll see. No, I'm
Oh
just kidding.
God. Oh my God. Hope not.
Actually, it was funny. I remember I worked for a newspaper, and this older lady was training me how to upload the newspaper online, right? And she had this horrible cough. I'm like, "Oh, you feeling okay?" You got, "Girl, I don't know what it is. I've had it for months, and it's okay." And then later on, I found out my house has mold in it. That's why I had this cough, and they had it's like, oh no.
Good gracious.
Uh, Here we are, though. Welcome everyone to Geeky Geezers. Have a great show, Geezers. Thank you, Big Al. You should check out his and Troy's channel if you haven't already. If you want to listen to rewatches of the two Eddie and the Cruisers movies, right?
I'll tell you what, man, that was just so much fun. And then because last night I had actually forgotten, but when you're already committed to a stream, it's you got to do what you got to do. But Mary's Game Room, that's Mrs. Rambling Canuck, was having a birthday stream last night over on Rambling Canuck's channel, and she stopped by in the middle of the stream to wish us well because you know dedicated Blue Wrench Stephen Otten deleted scenes mentioned it, so she came by and I'm like, oh, happy birthday. And I said, you know what, after Al's stream, I said, let's all go over there and wish her a happy birthday. And then I went over there and I sang a John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band song on their
Oh
karaoke
wow,
stream, just keep the music alive, so to speak.
cool. And I have been slowly catching up on Cobra Kai.
Good. Where are you
I'm on
at in it?
season 3, so I'm hoping
Okay,
to get
okay.
caught up before the new season starts. I want to watch it with everybody else. So
Oh,
I
okay,
don't know if you're ever
okay.
planning on doing a Cobra Kai discussion on your stream someday. Maybe
We
when the new
absolutely could.
yeah.
I don't see why we shouldn't. And are you caught up on, or have you watched recently the first the three what do you call it
Mm.
uh
Karate Kid
Karate Kid
movies.
movies?
No,
Yeah.
but I did buy them recently off of Voodoo. But
So
I know
what you
I'm
do?
leasing, but I got them on
Yeah,
sale.
yeah.
And
So
I'm gonna rewatch those probably when I'm done with Cobra Kai. I'm gonna rewatch the old movies again too because I was watching clips. I love part three. Part three is so gut wrenching.
part three is far better, I think, than people give it credit
People
for.
attacked it back in the day. I didn't understand why when I was a kid because I enjoyed it well enough. And then it's one of these things where everybody dogs on it, and you say, "Oh, I guess it wasn't that good." And then you watch it again, and you're saying, "No, they were just wrong. It was still
Yeah,
good."
and
It
and
was,
and even if it wasn't that good, uh the references in Cobra Kai, which are not mere Easter egg, nods to
Mm,
it is crucial and integral, and this was part of these people's lives and histories, so
yeah.
it's referenced and comes back. um I mean, you don't have to have seen the movies to enjoy Cobra Kai, but it is a nice companion piece. And I have a sneaky suspicion before we get into the next season, we probably should. I've never actually watched the fourth Karate Kid movie,
Right.
the Pat Morita film without Danny in it,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I don't know if that is still canon according to Cobra Kai or not. I guess it could be. Could Hilary Swank's character show up at some point? I don't know.
There's been rumors that might happen, and
Okay.
I'd be surprised if it doesn't. So
That might have been
yeah,
interesting. She could have show up on the show too. That might be. I mean, it's a standalone movie, I think, but I think he takes on another student at some point, and
yeah.
that was the plot of that. I don't think I've ever seen that all the way through. I've seen it in pieces. Welcome, Auditor Dread, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I proudly present the Geeky Geezers. What's up, gents? Who are you calling a gent? I'm sorry. Okay, the Pensec. It's time for some geezer knowledge. Buckly up, everyone. Okay, buckle up, everyone.
Yep.
Zootopia, welcome. Mr. Matchstick, welcome to the stream. Resident Evil 4 remake is addictive. I heard that just came out. I've been watching. I didn't get a chance to look at it too much, but it looks interesting. I realized that I saw my PS4 Pro, and it might be too cheap to spring for a new console, so maybe I'll just get it on that. Even though I swore off Sony consoles, I have the higher end of the last gen. I might also maybe I'll just pick it up on that at some point. But I'm rambling, aren't I? Welcome, Birdman. Check out Daniel's channel for a recreation of the of a famous scene from the movie The Untouchables, as he was in the actual Chicago station. And I sent him over on my phone. I sent him the clip from Naked Gun 33 and a third. That scene. Remember that? Right, I love the Naked Gun movies. You ever see those?
I have, absolutely. And I used to watch the Police
Squad was excellent. I may have to look into getting that on DVD or Blu-ray or something. But I do miss those old movies. But welcome everybody to the chat. Like I said, so what's going on right now? We have the good old days to talk about, don't we? Before we get into the miserable modern days. It's not all bad. There's hope.
Yeah.
But I figured we would start out by talking about the Ewok adventure.
Sure, absolutely. Actually, so it's hard to talk about Ewok adventure without at least mentioning the follow-up, the Battle for Endor.
We could talk about both. I'm not gonna have too much to say about the sequel, but go ahead.
No.
I've seen them both.
And I know that there's a DVD 2-pack out there. Actually, I want to get, because I really do want these films on DVD. I haven't yet, but I need to. And that's just me. These extraneous, I guess you would these days consider this kind of stuff to be EU. I mean, this is out there like with the holiday special.
Kind of, not quite
it's
as low
a thing
as that
happened.
It's a thing that happened and people wanted to forget later on. I think that's
well, I mean, some fans want to forget it. Others, look, if you're of a certain age, anything Star Wars, you just craved it. I remember seeing these on cable, and I was just old enough that I wasn't super into the Ewoks. I was a little like, oh, the stupid teddy bears. But at the same time, I was like, I felt like there was probably some story here, behind the, behind Return of the Jedi, behind the Ewoks and this planet that was probably worth, although they went very childlike and very, out of universe.
I thought it made the Ewoks a little more interesting. I will admit that to this special. So here, let's get back to the Ewoks just in general. Sure. I was a child of the 80s, and I know people look fondly on the 80s, thinking the 80s were awesome. Everything was great in the 80s. Nah, there was a lot of cringy stuff in the 80s, too.
Yeah.
Care Bears, Rainbow Bright, Herself the Elf. Many of you probably don't even know that reference. Strawberry Shortcake, all these things.
Neon-colored clothes.
Well, I always felt like as a boy, too, they kept pushing this stuff on me. And it's like, I don't like this cute stuff. I like the gross stuff.
Yeah.
that was
which also had a big late 70s, early 80s, spin up with the Garbage Pail Kids and stuff like that.
Which was basically a direct riff on Cabbage Patch Kids.
Right, exactly.
And other things like, I loved Toy Slime and things that came with kits, like the Mad Scientist kits. I love those.
Yeah, Slime was big in the late 70s and early 80s too.
So
I was just ubiquitous.
Was big on that. But then of course we have the Ewoks, which I always felt was this George Lucas trying to cash in a little bit and trying to get into that market. I'm not going to be so cynical as to say yes. But
I think he's kind of implied it himself. But at the same time, he also sometimes you really got to think through to try to understand where he was coming from. His original idea for Return of the Jedi was it was going to take place on Kashyyyk, and it was going to be
Wookiees, which I
Wookiees.
thought would have
Yeah.
kicked butt. That would have been like
Which,
the
if you
perfect
think
example.
about
Yeah.
it, you could see where that element would work. But he also felt like, and he said this in interviews, he said he felt like a couple things. One, as the films have gone, it got more and more dark, and he was trying to raise it up a little bit more. He also was trying to make it a little bit more for kids. Yes, there is the marketing of the toys to kids, so that element comes into it. And he also felt like, because he was really looking for that, the primitive natives fighting against the advanced Imperials,
Right, right.
right?
And of course,
And he
Wookiees aren't
felt
primitive. Yeah,
and
yeah.
he felt like, yeah, because of what we had seen of Chewbacca, they had lost that element. And sure enough, when you go back and you see the elements of Kashyyyk from the prequels,
Yeah.
it's almost like he's acknowledging that. It's like, this is a race that was probably primitive, like the Ewoks, maybe a couple generations ago, but because of, exploitation by the Imperials and whatnot,
Right.
they've advanced. They have been forced to, you know, understand technology and so on and so forth, to the point where you have someone like Chewbacca who can fix a starship, right, and fire a plasma gun and stuff like that. So he was like, yeah, if we're going to get the story I wanted to tell, it's got to be a whole new race. And look, even as a kid, I saw there was valuable marketing there. My
Oh, sure.
brother had a like half scale, plush Wicket
Yeah.
that was just freaking adorable. And it's like, okay, I cannot fault Lucasfilm for marketing this thing. I just
And I'll
can't.
even admit the even the toys that were around the Return of the Jedi. I didn't have them myself, but I had friends that had them, like the Ewok play sets. They were kind of cool, the treetops and everything and all that.
Yeah, exactly. At this point too, I would really like to. I don't know if I want to actually get the old Ewok play set, or if I just want to, build my own version of it. Because I think I could, maybe do a better job as
Probably.
dioramas go. But at the same time, I love the idea. And they took the Ewok playset and repurposed it into the Robin Hood Sherwood Forest playset. In fact, they improved it. That's one example where they reused the molds for something and improved it, because the original Ewok playset was just, treetop or literally tree trunks with the bridges and stuff between them and whatnot. And Robin Hood added like the tree tops with the leaves and whatnot, and the working elevators and other play features.
And that was for Prince of Thieves, right?
Prince of Thieves, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we have the Ewok Adventure. It was called
Mm-hmm.
It aired on network television, and maybe you
Right.
caught it on cable later on. It was on network television. It was like I don't know if it was the ABC movie of the week or something, and it was like, here's an original Star Wars adventure. I'm like, well, it's
Right.
Ewoks, but it's on TV for free. It's Star Wars related. I'll tune in. And I remember,
Interestingly, it originally aired on ABC, which is now owned by Disney.
yeah, well, Lucas probably farmed it out to whoever. Probably Fox wasn't around yet, because it probably would have been Fox if Fox had existed yet.
Well, yeah, good point. Yeah.
So it's about this family, and they look like a typical Republic family. Like they
Oh,
have the
wait,
same
and do you know
outfit.
what date it aired? It was
No,
November 25th.
okay.
So it was actually like close to Thanksgiving, just like the holiday special.
Oh, interesting. And I do remember watching it live, and it was interesting. It had a narrator explaining things, which I thought was kind of neat. It was like
Mm-hmm.
almost like a documentary in that style, like explaining what these are the Ewok customs, right?
Right, right.
That was kind of interesting. You had like almost like an anthropologist explaining what these things mean in the Ewok lore. What Wicket is in it. He's one of the characters in it.
Right.
I'm assuming this takes place after Return of the Jedi.
I think they were a little bit ambiguous about that.
All right. Because I mean, they've run into humans before, I guess, because they didn't want to eat them, right? So, or set them on fire, or
That
whatever.
does seem kind of weird, right? Like they see these outsiders as food until they figure out otherwise. it's kind of hard to believe that they would have these adventures with humans before, and now suddenly they see them as a food source. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right. But yeah. Oh, Daniel, stop it. He says Police Squad DVD coming this week.
Ah,
He's gonna send me one. No, but anyway, what was I gonna say? Ewok Adventure, though. Getting back to it.
yeah.
So a family crash lands on Endor, and I'm almost getting reverse ET vibes, right? Because there's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's an
Yeah,
excellent point. Let's face it, the little girl did seem like
a
a
Drew
Drew
Barrymore
Barrymore
type. Yeah.
stand-in. Yeah, exactly. The name of the family, the I believe it was the Tawani family.
Yeah. And of course, you have an older brother who almost reminds you of like a brattier version of the original Luke Skywalker in a
He
way. He has
looked
like
a
this
lot like Mark
Mark
Hamill. Yes, he
Hamill,
did.
and he's kind of being a pill for a lot of the thing. Like he's always has an attitude problem, and I think their parents disappear right in the beginning of the movie,
Yeah,
but we
something
learn
like
they get
that.
carried off by a huge giant monster.
And by the way, the brother's name, the character was Mace. This was definitely Mace was a name that Lucas had been holding on to for a while before he got around to Mace Windu.
Well, it could be a common name in the Republic too. You know, maybe more. There's probably I'm sure there's more than
Absolutely, I
one
think
Mace. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a perfectly good example. I think that someone made a point that Antilles is probably a common last name because Captain Antilles from the that's mentioned as the captain of the Tantive 4 was, as far as canon goes, no relation to Wedge Antilles. So someone said maybe it's a name like Jones. So someone said, I wonder if there's an Indiana Jones analog called, like Tatooine Antilles or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, it was the Gorax that captured their parents, right? So
Yep.
they're lost. They have to go to the Ewoks for help, right? And the Ewoks, I guess they go to the Elder and they have to do some
Low
shaman
gray.
magic or
Yes,
something.
exactly.
And they end up going on a quest. So it's like, I don't want to say it's like Fellowship of the Ring or The Hobbit, but, they have to go
Yeah.
on a quest to get their parents back. And, I mean, they're helping out the humans. So Mace doesn't need to act like such a spoiled brat during the movie.
Right.
I'm trying to
And
think. Mhm.
and I noticed that they use the names. See, we know the names of the Ewoks primarily from the action figures that came out.
Mhm.
You could argue whether or not that's in quotes canon because it wasn't on screen, but those names were actually used for these characters in this film. So it's like, okay, well, you know that underscores the canon. And nowadays with Wikipedia, you're like, well, if it's on Wikipedia, it's canon. So the names are the names, right?
And I take it Wikipedia recognizes the Ewok Adventures 1 and 2. But, this is a quest movie. This almost seems like a precursor to what we might have seen in Willow. I mean, because
Yeah.
it's almost reminiscent of a sort of a fantasy world. Not quite like total magic, like, like their little things like he get, like there's a stone that can tell them where the thing is. And I don't know if, to be fair, Star Wars has always played with science fantasy anyway, but I mean, I don't know. For what it was, I didn't think it was terrible as a child. What did you think, though? Did you really
Oh,
resent that?
I loved it. This was another one. See, I've always been this way. I always wish there was uh, action figures specifically related to this, like 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 cards for the Ewok. What do you call it? The Ewok adventure or an Ewok adventure or Star. They could even have called it an Ewok adventure, a Star Wars story or something. I don't know, whatever. But with that specific particular branding of card back, so we could have gotten Mace, we could have gotten Aubrey, we could have gotten the parents and so forth. But speaking of, here's another thing. I mentioned that this was a holiday adjacent film. Do you remember who the narrator was for this film?
No.
Burl Ives.
Oh, I knew it was someone I recognized. I just couldn't think
Yep.
of who it was. Okay.
So again, I totally kind of see this as you know what? Maybe this year instead of doing the regular holiday special, maybe I'll do Caravan of
Caravan of
Courage,
Courage.
Ewok Adventure, whatever you want to
It
call
was
it. Yeah,
called Caravan of Courage in Europe because it
yeah,
aired over there as a theatrical feature. This is really weird thing where our TV movies show in European theaters, which
sure.
almost makes me feel bad for the Europeans that they get stuck with our made-for-TV movies. I think that what goes back to Duel, though, which was an excellent movie Steven Spielberg made for TV, and it was so popular that it aired in Europe in theatrically, and that sort of got
Mm-hmm.
Spielberg's career started. And that actually feels like an actual feature when you watch it, though, not just some made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
As for this though, happy ending, family reunited. Even the brother wins back some marriage. Wicket has fun. I think there's a death of a Ewok or something along the way, but overall happy ending. Then we get the sequel.
Well, I was going to say, and speaking of which, you were mentioning, of course, they had Wicket front and center in this film, and of course that was Warwick Davis reprising his role again, which he does again in, as you said, the Battle for Endor.
Oh wow! I don't understand what was with '80s movies and them trying to torment children, especially
Right.
children's features. Because basically the movie starts out, I think her older brother Mace and her two parents get killed
Right.
by what look like orcs. I guess there's some kind of troll-like creatures on this planet, and they're attacking the Ewok village. I think they capture all the Ewoks. I don't know if they're going to drag them off into forced labor.
They're just
or
called
what the idea is.
Marauders. I don't think they named the race.
What I thought was a missed opportunity here. It looks like they're shooting them with blasters. Wouldn't it have been interesting if, like, you had this like orc-like race on this planet, and they find all these leftover weapons from the Imperials?
Yeah, good
And
point.
that could have been where they got the blasters from. They don't explain that though, and I don't think that's what happened. But that would have been kind of interesting.
Yeah, I guess in my head canon it was always they were like some sort of pirates that were using Endor as a
okay, that
base
makes
or
more
something
sense.
like that.
But it would have been interesting if there had been like an enemy race of the Ewoks, and they uncover all the old Imperial weapons. That might have been an interesting story to do, but that's not what we see here. But and yeah, it's just kind of a downer. Her parents and her brother get killed, and it's like that was the whole point of the first movie,
right?
Was to reunite the family, and they shatter that.
I wonder if that was kind of like foreshadowing of what was going to happen with the sequel trilogy.
Maybe, because it's like, why are they killing off? They had the actors in the movie too. It's not like they couldn't afford to use the actors because they're in it just to get killed. I don't understand what they were thinking there. It might have been one thing if the girl had gotten lost from her family and is trying to reunite with them or something. They could have done that.
Right.
Instead of us having them killed off. I didn't get that. You have this evil witch, which I guess is leading the Marauders.
Yeah.
Who's played by the actress that played Bab Morda in Willow. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Same actress.
That makes sense.
And she runs into Wilford Brimley at some point.
Yeah.
The Quaker Oats guy, for those.
Yeah, he's there to teach the Ewoks about diabetes.
I don't. And stuff happens. I think she frees the Ewoks. Does she end up getting raised by the Ewoks? I don't know.
I don't know.
I
thought that she and Wilford Brimley end up getting off the planet later. I don't know.
They do. They leave the planet.
Yeah.
Where's she going to go?
Yeah.
I don't care at this point. It's kind of, it left a sour taste in my mouth.
I think the biggest oddity of it was the use of magic for all intents and purposes.
Basic magic.
She could turn into a bird or something like that. And it was like, what? I mean, the only way, if I squinted and held my head on an angle, I could imagine her maybe being like one of the witches of Dathomir, and it wasn't like real, it was illusion or something, and she's using the dark side of the force.
It's full on fantasy now instead of having a science fiction type thing. And I just don't, at least the first one, there's like alluded stuff, but it's not so far removed. Like, maybe there is scientific explanation for this stuff. Maybe there isn't. Of course, we have the Force in Star Wars anyway. So, but here it's full on fantasy magic. That's what it is. And I know that Lucas was wanting to do the sword and sorcery stuff, and I don't know how involved he was in this production or not. But it's just the villain in the second Ewok movie was the tall man in Twin Peaks. I didn't realize that. Yeah, Gene Marsh was Bab Morda. I mean, I'm not fine performance. I just don't understand. Correction: CN Phillips played the witch in Battle for Endor. Gene Marsh played Bab Morta. Okay, well, I don't know. I thought it was the same actress. They had a similar look to them when I saw it, but like I said, it's been a few years.
Yep.
I don't know.
Oh, he's right. It was I always get his last name, Carl Stroiken, I think, something like that. I met the guy, heck of a nice guy. I had a meal with him, but honestly, could not pronounce his last name. It was tough. But yeah,
Gotta tell you though, the only place you can watch those two movies is on Disney Plus right now. I would figure they were on
unless
the internet.
you get the DVD, and what do I always say? Own
Physical media.
Yeah.
Because I think our library system had them, so I got it out from the library a few years back to watch. Just
There you go.
before the new movies came out, I was watching before the sequel trilogy came out. I just for the heck of it, I watched the Ewok movies again just to see what they were like again. And I was going to try to rewatch one of them at least before the stream tonight if I had time. But then you figure this is something that someone would just slap on YouTube and no one cares. But apparently, no. Every little piece of Star Wars, even this, is high value, and you're not going to see it up anywhere illegally. It looks like, at least not easily to find. But I know you have your. I'm not going to say it. I'm not gonna say anything else. He also played Lurch in the Addams Family. That's true. Anyway, Ewok Adventure. Maybe check out the first one. Skip out the second one. Skip the second one unless you're really curious. And that little girl grew up to be Admiral Holdo. I'm kidding.
No, jeez.
That might have been interesting if they had her
bad.
show up in the sequel trilogy as a character. That might have been kind of neat as a nod.
I don't think they ever wanted to really acknowledge it in any way, shape, or form as
Ewok Adventure is still better than
I
the
agree.
majority of that sequel trilogy.
I agree.
It doesn't hurt Star Wars. Nothing in it hurts Star Wars. I'll say that. It's a standalone adventure. Can I see this stuff existing on Endor, like this big giant monster and these weird spiders and strange things? Yes. And I can see other weird creatures existing on these different alien planets and them going on adventures. I can see that happening in the Star Wars universe. And we never saw another one of these specials though, because I guess at that point Lucas was focused on Willow, and Indiana Jones sequels. So I don't know.
Yeah. Now you're depressing me. I could at least laugh and joke about the Ewok Adventures. I don't want to think too badly about what Lucasfilm has done to.
Hello, the chat. Well, we are going to be discussing that later tonight, regardless. Hello, the chat. Drop me to say hi. I can't say tonight, but I'll catch the rewatch. Have a great show. Thank you, Rise and Talk, for stopping by. Thank you all for our some of our late arrivals. We have Surality, Padawannabe, Deleted Scenes. I forgot you were having a stream tonight, Deleted Scenes. Check out his channel. He does he does streams all the time, and he does what does he call them? Deleted Scenes?
What is it? Unplugged?
Unplugged, yes. Yeah, check it out.
Definitely. And Padawannabe, make sure you're following that channel. That's he is the one responsible for the Padawannabe challenge over on Pops on Pop Culture. And if you're following Netter, she's planning on taking that challenge. So we'll keep you posted on that. But anyway, yeah, the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. I really do.
Fine.
And
I'm not an Ewok hater. I don't like these people. I hate the Ewoks. And it's like, yeah, but you liked everything that came after them. Come on.
Well, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of stuff that's come since then that by comparison, the Ewoks are much, much better. And for the purpose of action figures and dioramas and stuff, I've been whenever I can, I pick up like Ewok action figures when I see them, at low cost or whatever, even if I already have them, because they're easily customizable into other Ewoks. There was a limited number of Ewoks they put out, but there was a lot that you saw in the background. So sometimes you want to repaint them and change the headdresses and stuff like that. In fact, for the vintage collection, they put out a Wicket figure, which I thought was really kind of brilliant. Better articulation than the retro figures, and the cowl that he wears. He came with two cowls. One was the beige one that you see in all of the movies and whatnot, and this one greenish one, his so-called travel cowl that he used in the cartoon series, the Ewok cartoon series,
Oh, okay.
which I thought was kind of brilliant, and I kind of like that. So yeah, I
Cool.
got that. So there we go.
So we have an in remembrance tonight if we're tying it back to the Ewoks.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why this is important to me. This is somebody that you probably have seen him, not realized, and I think actors like this deserve a little bit more respect than they generally receive. So Paul Grant, who played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, he played a Goblin in Harry Potter. He was in, I want to say, was he in Labyrinth? Well, we'll get to the article, but he passed away at the age of 56. Yeah, let's
I'll go ahead and read.
go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Paul Grant, an actor who appeared in the Star Wars and Harry Potter films, has died at age 56 after being found collapsed outside a train station. Grant was found outside King's Cross Station in North London on Thursday afternoon. He was pronounced dead at 3:49 a.m. on Monday, but had been declared brain dead before that following his collapse. The cause of his death has not been disclosed. Grant, who played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi and a Goblin in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, appeared as one of the Goblin Corps in the cult 1986 classic Labyrinth,
Right.
alongside David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly.
Yep.
The actor also served as the stunt double in Labyrinth for Hoggle, who was played by Sherry Weiser and voiced by Brian Henson. His other film credits include Legend, the 1985 Tom Cruise film, and the 1988 film Willow. His daughter, Sophie Jane Grant, confirmed his death to Sky News. She said, "I'm heartbroken. No girl deserves their dad to be taken away. He was well known and loved for his work. He's gone too soon." A London ambulance service spokesperson said, "We were called at 2:08 p.m. on Thursday, 16 March, to reports of an incident at St. Pancras Station, Euston Road. We sent an ambulance crew and a medic in a response car. We treated a man at the scene and took him to the hospital as a priority." Grant is survived by his girlfriend, Maria Dwyer, his two daughters, and one son, as well as his stepchildren and grandchildren. Dwyer paid tribute to the actor, saying, "Paul was the love of my life, the funniest man I know. He made my life complete. Life is never going to be the same without him." Grant's stepdaughter, Stacy, has set up a GoFundMe page to raise funds toward his funeral. "I'm starting this page as Paul sadly passed away yesterday, and I would like to give him the best send-off he would want," she said. So, yeah, you have that information if you want to contribute. It's just, yeah.
I could have dropped an article, but it's not that important. There was going around. Mark Hamill had talked about his sadness at the passing, because they worked together and whatnot. I know the immediate instinct is 56 is really young. Another died suddenly, but in fairness, dwarfism has a whole host of medical issues that go with it. Look, whether you're whether it's dwarfism or gigantism, it's a strain on the heart, and it is very, very common. And so it doesn't generally come as a surprise. All deaths are tragic, and everybody goes too soon. But I did want this one to not fall by the wayside, because this was someone who contributed, maybe not in the most obvious and starring way. I honestly could not even find a reference to which specific Ewok Paul played anywhere.
Right.
I dug through IMDb. I even went back to old reference pictures of the Ewoks, with their masks off and whatnot. Couldn't find the specific one, but I also noticed that he has as many, what's it called, stunt double, roles as acting roles. And again, I feel that the stunt actors don't get enough credit, and that's, I feel, even more tragic today, because it's getting to the point where the stunt doubles are the characters more often than the actual actors. The actors are little more than the voice. And all the physical action is the stunt actor.
Oh,
And
yeah, of course. And some of my stunt actors become actual actors later on too. That happens too. Yeah.
true.
But yeah,
But
it's a hard work, and it's we would be nowhere without our
and
person.
so much of what you love about the films that you love is specifically because of people like Paul Grant. So let's at least acknowledge that.
Pay our respects.
And you know what? We dropped the article there. If you want to give to the fund to try and help out with his funeral, go for it.
But yeah, it's sad to see him go. But like I said, he's been in Harry Potter. He was in Labyrinth. Labyrinth. That was an interesting movie. Remember first we see Hoggle and he's taking a whiz in the pond.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like, you know what it was? Funny thing about Labyrinth was, that should be another good old day someday. But it's like, you think this girl's going to this magical fantasy world, and like everything is just off.
Yeah.
It's not like.
I know, right? It's not happy rainbows and unicorns.
No. It's not like terrifying. In some scenes it's terrifying, but it's like everything is just off.
Which honestly is probably a little bit more like the fairy realm was always conceived, in true legends. exactly. And if you have not ever seen an adaptation or read the play Midsummer Night's Dream, you're missing all the lore that we base fairydom on.
It's important. Yeah, it's an important play. Yeah, in fact, I've seen the film version with Clarissa Falkart. She was in a film version of it, I believe.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that one.
It was a more modern version, made I think in the '90s. It's actually very good. In fact, I think they have the look of the. I think they set it in like Victorian times, as opposed to like. But yeah, I would check it out. I do recommend it.
Okay.
But anyway, getting back to modern news now. Of course, we talked about this last week. The Disney's Rock, ESPN, and Hard Place. I guess that's for a reference back to what we were talking about last week. That's why. Yeah. Because apparently there's some setbacks hitting Disney right now.
Yeah, I would say so. We're going to get into those. Some of them came to my attention literally just last night.
The Star Wars one?
No, the Marvel. What's his name?
The arrests. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
And I want to make a point that every man is due his day in court. So I'll report on that because, of course, we're going to find out sometimes people jump the gun. Not that I'm even a fan of Dan Harmon, but we'll talk about him later.
Right.
Did you want me to read anything from the ESPN article from last time, or do you want to jump right into
Star Wars? Was that from last time? I thought that was...
Yeah. That was
that is my mistake. I didn't realize that was from last week.
It's okay. I meant to, but yeah, go ahead and post the next one.
I told you I made a couple, and I guess I just forgot that we had covered that. You know what, though? You're absolutely right.
You'll get a pay cut over it. I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. Well, you too for missing Friday. So
of course, yeah. So we're even.
You owed me one. So
no, you're fine. So, no, like I said, yeah.
But you were absolutely right in how you pivoted on that, because it is relevant, and it does that does kind of lead us into some of the setbacks that Star Wars, and we'll get into Marvel in a minute, are experiencing right now.
You just crack open a Coors there.
Yeah, right. No, I'm just refilling my, in quotes, refilling my squirt.
I was telling Troy that I was rewatching. I'm watching again. I'm watching actually this. I'm watching for the first time Cobra Kai, and I love Johnny Lawrence on that show because he gets angry when he gets offered a Coors Light. Why do I want a Coors Light? Give me a regular Coors.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I was at a bar one time where one night, if you sang a karaoke song, you got a free Coors Light. So
what are they trying to keep people from singing?
No, I don't know, but it's like, hey, free beer is free beer, right?
Actually, I would bet you dollars to donuts there was some sort of a promotion going on with Coors,
perhaps,
and that's why they were doing it. Possibly.
I sang a couple songs to get my free beer. So,
well, good.
Lucasfilm ran into some major setbacks with its next theatrical release in the Star Wars universe. Fans haven't seen a Star Wars movie on the big screen since 2019's Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, as
Now we know
Lucasfilm
exactly why too.
attempts to move into a new adventure outside the Skywalker saga. Uh, those efforts haven't been easy, however, as an already planned Star Wars movie set for 2025 has been facing more than its fair share of problems, with multiple new Disney Plus properties have been produced and released in the last few years. Well, okay. And with two other new movies from a galaxy far, far away already facing the axe with no signs of improvement on the horizon, the new 2025 outing is facing a whole new set of issues with its production crew. New Star Wars movie loses head writers. Above the Line revealed that both Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson have left their upcoming Star Wars movie, with which both of them were initially set to write ahead of the film's 2025 release. The pair reportedly gave a draft of the film to Disney and Lucasfilm in mid-February, but left the project only days after that happened. It appeared that Lucasfilm already has a new writer in line for this mystery movie, although the name wasn't revealed yet. The new story, which will be directed by Ms. Marvel's Sharman Obaid Chinoy, is currently slated to start production in February 2024, ahead of its December 2019-2025 release date. Above the Line Jeff Schneider also clarified further on Twitter, explaining that Obaid Chinoy is still in line to direct the film and that it will be Lucasfilm's next Star Wars movie. I'm seeing a repeat of mistakes here, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Right.
You need to plan these things out. Considering that this 2025 Star Wars movie already has its new writers set, it's still disconcerting to know that its original screenwriters wound up leaving their work unfinished, particularly with Damon Lindelof's credentials and the passion he showed for the post-Skywalker saga adventure. Lindelof was originally hired for the position in March 2022, a fact that only leads to a number of questions about why he and Justin Britt Gibson left the project so abruptly, less than a year before it's scheduled to begin production. And while Ms. Marvel director Charmin Obaid Chinoy is nothing to sneeze at, after impressive success with the MCU, she now stands as the only creative attached to Lucasfilm's first Star Wars movie in what will have been 6 years. Disney CEO Bob Iger explained how disappointing box office returns from recent years gave them pause on making another Star Wars movie, so it's clear that the studio wants to give the fans something to be proud of.
I mean,
Wait a minute.
I've never seen that being made very clear by their actions, but okay. If
What do you
say
mean
that.
something to be proud of? It's something you need to be proud of.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something to make. I mean, make them proud to be Star Wars fans. Is that what they're saying?
I don't know.
Now, with no definitive signs pointing to when a new writer for the story will be revealed, Star Wars Return to the Big Screen will continue to be a topic fans look at with some concern. Are you concerned, Troy?
At this point, I don't care. I gotta be honest. You know,
I don't understand. Is this going to be a standalone movie? Is this a new trilogy? What is this supposed to be?
I think this is hey, we're still working on something here. We're still trying to develop the Star Wars brand that we've killed. I think it's bullcrap, to be honest with you.
I mean, they could do a lot of things. They could go back to the High Republic. Oh, wait a minute. No, they did the Old Republic. There you go. They could They could do something from the Old Republic days, right? If they want to do something that's not connected to anything new, and they could just. I don't know. I don't know what they could do at this point. Let's move on to the next article. There's more information coming your way. Aren't we excited?
This leads directly into this. Exactly.
At this point, I don't care. PMSL. Is that dirty? Okay. Steve N. Knight to write new Star Wars movie after Damon Lindelof, Justin Britt Gibson exit. Did they not like their drafts?
And let me tell you this also. If they are bringing someone else in and saying they're writing it, that means it's not written, which means they haven't really started it yet, which means it may or may not ever actually happen, as I just said.
Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight is set to write the
whatever
screenplay.
That is.
It's a show. I've not seen it. I think it's on Netflix. I could be wrong. For the untitled Star Wars movie that Charmin Obaid Chinoy, Ms. Marvel, is attached to direct, as original screenwriters Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson have departed the project, Variety has confirmed. Can I just say why no one's concentrating on the director they selected? I mean, maybe it's she did the Ms. Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I saw the Ms. Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Um, it seemed like the lowest budgeted of the Marvel films, and almost I don't want to say it was as bad as like something you would make for television, but it didn't seem as high budget as it didn't seem like a high budget extravaganza like some of the other Marvel movies were. I
Well,
don't
we'll
know.
get into the very low budgety look of Disney films when we get into Victoria Alonso. Yeah.
So the movie is widely expected to be among Lucasfilm's first Star Wars film since 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. More information about the movie, including a possible title, is expected to be announced at Star Wars Celebration London in April. A representative for Lucasfilm did not respond to a request for comment. So maybe there'll be a hint at the Star Wars Celebration in April, what it's going to be.
There's a lot of talk right now among the fandom with speculation about Celebration. Honestly, we're all shaking our heads and waiting to see what happens at Celebration. That's going to be very interesting.
Okay, so Knight is a veteran screenwriter who launched his career specializing in gritty crime dramas like 2002's Dirty Pretty Things and 2007's Easter Promises, eventually branching out to lighthearted dramedies, 2014's The 100-Foot Journey, war thrillers, 2016's Allied, and biopics, 2021 Spencer. They don't pick science fiction writers for these things, or even fantasy writers. I've noticed this. This is he also created and executive produced the BBC period crime drama Peaky Blinders, which streams on Netflix in the United States. Lindelof, best known as the co-creator of the TV series Lost, The Leftovers, and Watchmen, brought a Britt Gibson counterpart into the Badlands to write a Star Wars movie together. After turning in a draft earlier this year, the duo departed the project. Okay, we already talked about that. Earlier in March, Variety reported that separate movies, one shepherded by director Patty Jenkins, the other by producer and Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige, had been shelved by Lucasfilm and were no longer in active development. I'm assuming the Jenkins one that was the Rogue Squadron movie?
Yes.
Which I would assume would take place during the original trilogy? And would focus
I
on
have
Wedge
no
Antilles and
idea.
Luke
It
Skywalker
could.
as the. Never mind. Okay.
No, absolutely not. They can't allow that. No, it could take place during the original trilogy, but I don't expect them to do that. It could also take place during the like Mando era, the New Republic era. Which would work just fine too. I believe some of the novels took place in that era as
Right.
well.
Okay. So I'm thinking of the games, but it doesn't
If
matter.
they're
I think
even
they've been
following
shelved.
those novels, remember, there's no written books and stuff that exist for them to draw on for Star Wars per Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, this project's been shelved anyway, so I guess it's a moot point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, good
in
point.
October 29, I don't know what the Lost guy was writing, but I guess his project Kevin Feige's project got shelved. Okay. In October 2019, Game of Thrones executive producer David Benioff Weiss walked away. Okay, I know about this. All right. So Star Wars films are still known to be active within Lucasfilm, including a project by filmmaker Taika Waititi, in which he would likely star, as well as the prospective film from Sean Levy that would follow his commitment to direct Deadpool 3, and complete work for a Netflix limited series, All the Light We Cannot See, in which Levy developed with Knight. I could see the Deadpool director maybe making a decent Star Wars movie. I don't know about Taika Waititi because you heard about him with Natalie Portman, right?
Yeah.
He had asked her, "Do you want to be in my Star Wars movie?" And she said, "I was in 3 of them."
Yeah.
How you doing, chat? You excited? Star Wars basically fantasy in a sci-fi setting, but they should maybe try getting sci-fi writers or decent fantasy writers or genre writers. I don't know. Maybe there are none left these days. I don't know. Yes, sir. Hasbro was showing off Luke from Mando. Okay. You already.
Yeah,
talked about
he
that.
had asked me a question about the action figure, and I gotta say, utter dread. Although I know of the figure, and if you're into those 6-inch figures, I think it's a great figure. But I'm not. I am into the 3 3/4 because I want more than just a good looking statue, posable statue. I want something that I can put into a ship, that I can put into a playset, a diorama, whatever. So mostly anything that comes out for the Black Series though comes out for the Vintage Collection too. So I'm usually okay. But
So basically, no one knows anything, but they're working on a movie. I know that there was some rumor about maybe bringing Ray back, but I don't know if there was any credence to that. You there?
yeah,
I don't know if you care.
I heard the mention of that. I think we talked about it a little bit before,
We
but
talked about it in private. I think you were mentioning how.
honestly, I think everything that's been said in the past couple weeks, things are changing very, very quickly behind the scenes, behind at Disney, and we'll get into a lot more of the whys of it. But I would say any rumors, even things that aren't said as rumors, things that come out officially from Disney, I would still take as rumors. You know, people tend to get all bent out of shape. Oh, rumors mean nothing. It's just made up bull crap. Yeah, well, so is the official words that come out of these studios. If you're just believing whatever the studios say, you're just as dumb. So we are in the cave, seeing shadows on the wall, trying to figure out what's going on outside the cave in the real world. And we're doing the same thing with Disney, and everyone's trying to do that. And how many times have you heard about something being announced that's absolutely happened and then it just disappears?
Okay.
We've already talked about how Rian Johnson, his trilogy just is not happening, and we know it. It was announced for sure that the Rogue Squadron was happening. Well, that's gone. Things change, you know. So
If you
hold
were
on to your seats, and we'll see what happens.
if you were Iger right now, what would you be doing with Star Wars? Would you just be shelving it for a while? Would you be trying to maybe?
If I was Iger, I never would have come back to Disney, and I would enjoy my damn retirement. That's what I would have done if I was Iger.
You just think this can't be fixed no matter who comes back right now. You think it's a mess? I just
I'm feeling like he's reaping what he sowed. And I have a great deal of Schadenfreude there. At first, I was when he came back, I thought, oh crap, they're gonna pin this on Chapek, blah 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 blah, and he's gonna try and reap any of the positive things that Chapek might have had in progress, in the short time he had to greenlight things. I think that's not the case. I think there's much bigger things that have happened that Iger has to deal with that go back to his own time running before Chapek, during Chapek, after Chapek. We'll get more into that when we start getting into the lawsuits. But there's some very serious, very public fires going on over there. And he's going to regret coming back. He really, really is.
But he's only supposed to be there temporarily anyway until he picks a successor, right? Does he have to fix the mess first?
How would you like to be that successor?
I don't know. Chapek was supposed to be, and then that didn't work out so well. Let's go to more news. We have a big shocker for Marvel. Okay, right? We have.
This was the first article that I sent you last week. It was like breaking news just as we were ending the stream. And ironically, and we had more breaking news that I haven't even sent this one to you. I'm going to throw an extra one in after this one, by the way, Boomer. So I'm hijacking your show for a breaking news.
That's fine. You want to do it now, or do you want to do it?
No. We have to do this one first, and then we'll follow it up with the next one.
So here we go. Victoria Alonzo, the long time and high profile Marvel Studios executive whose time with the company dates back to the first Iron Man, has left the studio, multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. The reason for the exit are unclear, but she parted ways with Marvel on Friday, sources say. Alonzo had been with the company since the earliest days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, establishing an enviable 17-year run and watching the studio grow from operating above a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Beverly Hills to being acquired by Disney. During her tenure, the MCU became the highest-grossing franchise in film history. Alonzo joined the studio in 2006 as chief.
Pause here. We got to focus on this paragraph.
Okay. This one I'm about to read? Oh.
Exactly. Alonzo joined the studio in 2006 as chief of visual effects and post-production. Okay, think about that for a second as you continue on.
And helped launch the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a co-producer of 2008's Iron Man. She also served as co-producer on Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America: The First Avenger. Alonzo was upped to executive producer on The Avengers 2012, the landmark film that grossed $1.5 billion and took Marvel to new heights, proving that the concept of a shared cinematic universe could really work. Alonzo has served as an executive producer on Marvel's subsequent releases and also worked on its Disney Plus TV series. In 2021, she was promoted to president, physical and post-production, visual effects, and animation production. Last year,
President, physical and post-production, visual effects, and animation production. Again, I want to underscore that. And what have we been talking about with every Marvel film that we have seen in the past 5 years, right? I mean, and the TV shows. The biggest thing that people were saying about She-Hulk is like,
yes.
oh my gosh, this is a terrible Uncanny Valley cartoon, right?
I
And
had
then
heard a
Mhm.
rumor behind the scenes that they were taking forever to decide how muscly She-Hulk should be.
Yeah,
And that was driving the effects people crazy because they gave them less time to work on it because they couldn't
over at
decide on the
Midnight's Edge,
design.
well, actually, Midnight's Edge and WDW Pro and so forth have been talking about this a lot this past week. The script doctors had some things to say about it. And we actually mentioned this several months ago, I do believe, where the digital animators, and I'm saying that very broadly. I don't mean to undermine anyone's particular titles. I'm talking about the graphic people that do all the CG magic that we love so much, have been complaining because it used to be your best films, the ones where you couldn't even tell when things were CG, they got very, very detailed notes about what they were supposed to be doing. Sometimes they would get storyboards, they would get hand drawn illustrations, what they were going for, and they would do the After Effects based on that, get them approved. If they were off, they'd go back and redo them immediately, and that was it. What's happening is they're being told, okay, you need to make this scene where we have all this footage of the main actor running down the street, tripping over this, dodging out of that. Fill in that he's being chased by the bad guys and the aliens. Not scene by scene what's happening, just make it up. So they're just making stuff up, and it looks like it when you get it. You start going, why? Where did that ship come? Why is that there? That doesn't seem like what he's reacting to.
I remember complaints, I think, with Black Widow with some of the effects in that, right? That they were saying it's like they're basing the movie around, like they're doing the effects separate from the.
That's the other thing. They're also being told, okay, this scene where someone takes off their helmet, we don't know if it's going to be male or female, who it's going to be. So you might have to do this 5-6 times. But they don't give them 5 and 6 times as much time to do those shots. They still need to do it in the same amount of time. So it's all half-assed. What's the old saying? It's always been the case. You can get it fast, you can get it cheap, or you can get it good. You can't have all three.
It doesn't seem like it's the animators' fault. They're not being given the time to
Absolutely
to work
not.
their craft.
And that is why we brought you the article about a month ago where they were complaining, and some of the best in the industry are saying, I don't want to work with Disney anymore.
Yeah,
and I won't,
they're getting scared
because
of Marvel.
they're ruining our reputation.
Yeah.
And it's because of this woman.
It says her departure comes in the shadow of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania's poor showing at the box office and among critics and fans. It's sounding universal that this movie has been a dud. Even some of the shills, they kept trying to make excuses for it, saying, "Well, it's really about Kang. You need to go see the movie for that." It's like, is the rest of the movie good, or is it just? No.
And let's underscore that one for later. You got to go see this for Kang. Kang's the big thing. Kang is the big draw, and he's the one that's going to be in all the promotional material. Kang's the big villain going forward, and we're hanging our hat on Kang. Just remember that. later tonight.
We'll get there.
Yep.
In addition to her behind-the-scenes work, Alonzo has been an important ambassador for the studio's representative efforts and was outspoken toward Disney's dispute with Florida over its "Don't Say Gay" bill. As long as I am at Marvel Studios, I will fight for representation, Alonzo, who is gay, said at the time. She was named one of People and Espanol magazine's most influential Hispanic women in 2019, 2020, has been featured in THR's Women in Entertainment Power 100 list multiple times. I'm thinking that something's gone terribly wrong. I think that Ant-Man and the Wasp, they can't sugarcoat it. It was a bomb. It was not a success.
Terrible.
I don't know. Yeah,
it looks terrible, and everyone keeps coming back and saying this. There's just no getting around it. If your job is to make sure these movies look good and they look terrible, if your job is to make sure they come in at or under budget and you're consistently over budget, if your best talent is walking away saying we will not work with you because we're underpaid and overworked, you end up losing your job. And as it should be in a perfect world. But in the world that we live in, you turn around and you sue Disney. This is the one that I hadn't sent to you before. This
okay, yeah. You want to read from it? That's fine. Yeah,
I will. In fact, I've already got it up, so let me go ahead and, I made work for myself, so let me do it. Fired exec threatens serious legal consequences for Disney. Amid massive layoffs and restructuring, Disney is cleaning house. Heads have been rolling at Walt Disney Company since November, with the sudden and not entirely unwelcome firing of former CEO Bob Chapek. You can see where this article's coming from. No one knows who will be next on the chopping block as Disney looks to trim the fat. One recently ousted exec, former president of physical and post-production visual effects and animation of Marvel Studios, Victoria Alonzo, isn't going to take her firing lightly. In fact, she has a lot to say about it and intends to say it in court. The Oscar-nominated, got to get that in there, not Oscar-nominated, producer has lawyered up and, according to Deadline, has retained the services of Patty Glaser. Does that name ring a bell for you, Aged Boomer?
Yes.
Yep.
Was she the one wanting to spill the beans?
I'm
thinking of somebody else.
Law Dragon refers to Glazer as quite simply the go-to litigator in Los Angeles for business litigation and other high-profile cases. Glazer, a senior partner at Glazer, Whale, Fink, Howard, and all these other Dewey, Cheatham, and House, have experienced tangling with Disney and is currently suing the House of Mouse over the firing of Karen McCarthy, which we brought to you a couple weeks ago. The Star Wars TV series, The Acolyte. Alonzo and her attorney claim she was fired due to her Amazon Studios produced film. Okay, I don't want to get too into all of that, but and actually, because I'm throwing this at you, I don't want to read the whole article to you.
Right.
But now we have Alonzo is also wanting to go to court with Disney. Now we have two women fired from Disney, looking to sue, which is going to force Disney to either settle, which is going to be incredibly expensive on both counts, or go to court, which is going to result in disclosure and discovery. And they don't want that either. Because then we all get to find out all the things that we have wanted to know about, what's going on behind the scenes and what we've been complaining about. And let me tell you something, folks. This has direct impact on everyone who thinks that, okay, now Kathleen Kennedy's going to be fired too. That would be brilliant. Because you know what Kathleen Kennedy does? As soon as they say, pack your box, you're getting out, she comes and talks to this lawyer. Now there's 3 big-time women over leaving Disney that are going to have some things to say.
Interesting.
This is 3 black eyes for Disney, and they only have 2 eyes.
No, Yes, Auditor Dread had a comment. I don't know if you want to address it. Did you hear all about Alonzo claiming that Disney fired her because she was promoting for 1985 Argentina? There's a clause in her contract that says she can't promote non-Disney. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that was mentioned
Yeah. So
anywhere.
this is going to be a very interesting one because, and this is something that I've been in business for, for decades, working in management, dealing with HR, hirings and firings. Here's the thing: when you are fired, you aren't always, in fact, very rarely, are you ever given a reason. You're usually just said, okay, we're done. Uh, we're not going to be working together. Thank you very much for your service. Goodbye. And if you decide that you believe it's because you're a woman, because of your politics, because of your gender, because of your religious beliefs, any other number of things, you can make that accusation, and you can try to go to court and prove it, but you do have to prove it. And this is where the game of law happens. If you as a company don't really feel like you have anything to hide, and you don't feel they have anything that they can bring as evidence, you can just stonewall them. And eventually the big company's going to win. You can't prove what they were thinking of why, unless the company was stupid enough to say, in a memo that they were able to get a hold of, get rid of this woman because she's gay.
Right.
That never happens. They never put it in writing. But if it did, that would be your proof. Yeah. So unless there's something else that Disney is trying to keep quiet that these people are aware of. Honestly, I think Kathleen Kennedy and Alonzo, believe it or not, I think are even less important than Karen McCarthy. I think Karen McCarthy's discovery is probably going to be the worst for Disney, because it's going to dig into their finances and the lies that they tell their investors about the products that they're doing. They're selling them a bill of goods for something that doesn't exist. This great idea that they have, give us money for it, like the Acolyte, and they have no clue. And they're like, we'll figure it out after we have the money. That's not how business is supposed to work.
So they promote this thing and then they take the money, but then it may not necessarily go to the thing you're promoting.
Right. And then it fails and falls apart. And I think a lot of the juggling behind the scenes is starting to fall apart at Disney. And Cameron Pasha has pointed out, correlation isn't causality, but correlation does cause you to have to look into the causality. We start seeing all of this banking stuff going on in the media, and then Disney starts firing people and having lawsuits happening, and you start wondering, I wonder if there might be a connection, at least a correlation, if not a causality, So anyway, I hope you don't mind me squeezing that in there, but I felt
it's fine.
It was very interesting. An interesting development on the.
When does the media turn on Disney?
They kind of already have. This article that I just dropped for you comes from a page called Disney Dining. You can imagine they're probably a little Disney biased, but a lot of the trades are already starting to turn on Disney and saying, look, if you guys go down, we're not going down with you.
I remember back while Iger was still in charge, before Chapek took over, and they had a big spread. I don't know if it was in Bloomberg or one of those magazines, and it was Iger. There was like a painting of Iger in there with Baby Yoda sitting on his lap. This was right before Rise of Skywalker came out. Disney could do no wrong, and I guess it was like he's taking credit for Baby Yoda or Grogu as we know him now. And now it's everything's soured. I think no one's enthused about anything coming out.
Here is the other danger of something like that, right? Okay, fine. If Iger, I think Kathleen Kennedy even tried to take credit for Baby Yoda. Yeah. Fine. If you want to take credit for it, you can do that. But if that falls apart, that you have to take responsibility for too. And all this talk about Grogu working with Rey and stuff, and the fans friggin' reacting to that, the fall off of the numbers of the Mandalorian. Well, congratulations, you created something that almost worked, and then you found a way to kill it. You're that incompetent.
Grogu will help Rey. The new trilogy will be about Grogu helping Rey to rescue Kylo Ren from the void of In Between Worlds or something. That's where he disappeared to, so we can finally have Reylo happen.
I really don't want. There are so many fan theories out there. I have my own headcanon of fan theories. What could happen that would be awesome? Everything that the fans think of is better than what we actually end up getting from Disney. And that's the worst part. Part of me is like, actually, there is a way that Rey and Grogu combination could be great if it goes into a trilogy where it turns out that Grogu ends up becoming the hero and Rey ends up proves to be like Palpatine actually took her over and this is Palpatine's new body and she's the new villain. I think the fans would love that. I would love to see Grogu come back not only as a new Jedi to lead the new Jedi Order, but he also turns out to be the new Mandalore and the is the leader of the Zionist movement of the Mandalorians to move back to Mandalore and repopulate the planet. That could be some good stuff, but I just don't see Disney having the wherewithal and the writing talent to do something like that.
That's how it'll be set up in the first movie, and then someone will screw it up who they bring in to do the other two.
Bingo.
Not that I was saying.
That's not even a joke. That's almost probably exactly right.
Not that I love The Force Awakens, but I felt that it didn't. You could have still built off of it.
Yeah, if that was all there was to it, the next two movies could have really made it something great, and it really didn't.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is especially there was a lot of expectation on the Force Awakens. We needed the lore that takes place in between. There was such a long time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. We needed at least look at the original Star Wars. We had nothing, but there was so much lore back there. They dropped lines that implied, what was going on with the galactic politics and all this kind of stuff. We didn't really need the prequels in order to understand it. It was all implied. We didn't get any of those kinds of lines in The Force Awakens, and what lines we did get made no sense. It was like, how does that happen? How do you draw those lines? That's ridiculous.
Disney desperately needs to do some market research. Yeah, well, when you have some guy going directly up to Bob Chapek and saying, "Can you get rid of Kathleen Kennedy already?"
Well,
and of course he's defending her because he's nothing but a corporate shill. Okay,
you have a whole internet of fans for free telling Disney what they do and don't like. All they need to do is get their heads out of their asses and pay attention, because they still have this attitude. We own Star Wars. We can do whatever we want, and the fans will eat it up regardless. And the numbers keep proving them wrong.
Look at what works when bringing in new fans with new franchises. You can look at Ghostbusters Afterlife. You can look at Cobra Kai. You can look. There are examples out there of how to bring in a new audience. You can even
look at the Luke Skywalker return in The Mandalorian.
Right.
Things were at an all-time high, and hope was alive for the fans at that point, and they managed to screw that up too.
There's a heavy rumor that was Pablo Hidalgo that leaked that Gina Carano getting fired. No proof.
Yeah.
I have no proof of this, but that's a rumor.
It honestly, at this point, it doesn't even matter who's responsible, because it all falls on Disney as a whole. And even Iger was the one that says the buck stops with me. So blame Iger for it. You hired dumbasses that do this stupid shit, that have torpedoed your own ship from the inside. Congratulations, Iger. Go down with the ship.
I don't know. I mean, I'll never write a Superman comic, but I often have the idea that if I were to write a Superman comic, the it would almost be Superman dealing with enemies that were incompetent and causing trouble for Metropolis because of their incompetence more though than malice. Like that would be another level. That would be like you'd have an incompetent mayor or something like that. I would have toyed with that idea, but anyway, what are we talking about here?
Well, let's pivot to Marvel now. This is still
Oh,
Disney, but
we're still Marvel. Jonathan Majors. I know everyone in the chat's already talking about this. So,
yeah.
late breaking news. Jonathan Majors arrested and assault charge in New York. This is rather shocking. He's
I
been
want to
riding high this
reiterate what
year.
you said earlier in the stream. Everyone is innocent till proven guilty.
Yes.
But what I will say is, if you are a public figure, it's kind of incumbent on you to keep your personal life straight, because it's going to directly affect your business life.
Because one of two things happened: either you did do what you're being accused of, or you picked the wrong partner who is doing something to hurt you publicly.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Dan Harmon later too, as well. But he's having a big. I mean, he was just in that the third Creed movie, which I haven't seen.
Which is doing better than it should be, in my opinion.
I'm a little bugged by the fact that Stallone has basically been kicked out of his own series. But
exactly,
it does. I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm just saying that bothers me, and I'm sure Jonathan Majors is good in it. I'm just. Let me read the article, though. New York Associated Press. The actor Jonathan Majors was arrested Saturday in New York on charges of strangulation, assault, and harassment, authorities said. On Sunday, an attorney for Majors said there's evidence that he is entirely innocent. New York City police said that Majors, star of the recently released Creed 3 and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, was involved in a domestic dispute with a 30-year-old woman. Police responded around 11 a.m. Saturday to a 911 call inside an apartment in the Manhattan neighborhood of Chelsea. The victim informed police she was assaulted, a spokesperson for the NYPD said in a statement. Officers placed the 33-year-old male into custody without incident. The victim sustained minor injuries to her head and neck and was removed to an area hospital in stable condition. A representative for Majors denied any wrongdoing by the actor. He has done nothing wrong, the representative said in the email to the Associated Press on Saturday. We look forward to clearing his name and clearing this up. On Sunday, an attorney for Majors, Priya Chandri, came out more forcefully saying Majors is proving the victim of an altercation with a woman he knows and blamed the incident on the woman having an emotional crisis. Chandri said there was evidence clearing Majors, including video footage from the vehicle where this episode took place, witness testimony from the driver and others who both saw and heard the episode, and most importantly, 2 written statements from the women recanting these allegations. From the woman, okay, so she recanted? An email seeking additional comments by the NYPD based on Chandri's assertions was not immediately returned Sunday. Majors was arraigned on Sunday on a complaint involving misdemeanor charges for assault and aggravated harassment. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office said a judge ordered Majors released on his own recognizance on Saturday night with a limited order of protection. He was scheduled to appear in court on May 8th. We got to wait till May 8th before we get to the bottom of this.
Right.
In the meantime, the U.S. Army suspended its TV ad campaign featuring Majors that was intended to target younger audiences. The Army Enterprises Marketing Office said in a statement Sunday that the U.S. Army is deeply concerned by the allegations surrounding his arrest. While Mr. Majors is innocent until proven guilty, prudence dictates that we pull our ads until the investigation of these allegations is complete. The office said in a statement, Majors is one of the fastest rising stars in Hollywood after breaking through in 2019's Last Black Man in San Francisco. Majors has starred in Defy Bloods, the Harder They Fall, last year's Devotion. He also stars in recent Sundance film entry, Magazine Dreams, which Searchlight Pictures is to release in December. Like sometimes you have these actors that just blow up. You have Jenny Ortega is blowing up right now too. She's showing up in a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. And let's face it, they blow up because their studios are pushing them. I mentioned earlier, this guy is the person that they are hanging the MCU on right now. Whole MCU phase on. He's the big villain and whatnot. But I want to go back to that thing about the Army Enterprise Marketing Office saying that they're going to withhold the ads until, because they have to, whether they're innocent until proven guilty doesn't matter. Until this is cleared up, we need to wait. And this is what I'm talking about. These kinds of things directly impact sponsorships and producers and film companies and hype around movies and stuff. And this has always been true with sports figures just as well as entertainment figures. Keep your personal life clean because it will affect other things, you know.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I don't, somebody I was listening to just recently made an excellent point. It seems like with celebrities, if it's drugs and infidelity, you're usually okay. People are like, yeah, that comes with the territory. That's what these celebrities do. But
Not in the
if
old
it's
days of
domestic,
Hollywood. Nowadays, yeah, but not in the old days.
right?
The golden age. No, that would have hurt you.
But domestic abuse, nope. That's sure cancellation these days. Just Johnny Depp. Just saying.
Even the allegation, and then we have now.
Yeah.
It's now
And
in
then
the
you have
court of
to.
public
Then you're
opinion.
guilty until proven innocent, at least in the court of public opinion.
What is Disney going to do now? We have to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, Disney is in a between a rock and a hard place again, right? Because now they have to decide. Okay, first, we can't just fire someone outright because we've got enough lawsuits pending about that, right?
Yes.
So that's not going to happen. So the first thing I would do if I was Iger was probably have a sit down with him and say, look, what's going on? Okay. She's the problem. You're innocent. Then what is she doing in your life? Okay.
Yeah.
Fix
I mean,
this.
I don't know if this is a woman he's been with. It was a woman he met at a club. He could be entirely innocent. Could just be some person coming up to him.
Do you want to have a
I don't
continued
know.
career with us? Then maybe get your personal life straightened out. I've had to have those kinds of conversations with people that worked for me when I was in management.
Right.
It's like, look, I don't care about your personal life. I don't care what choices you make and what you're doing. But when it affects my business,
that's a problem.
That's a problem. And if it affects it enough, I will have to let you go over it. So get your stuff together.
But we have to also be careful too, because if Majors is innocent, and if here's the track, here's where they are. Let's be honest. It's he's a black actor, so you don't want to. I don't know. You want to be careful here because who do you believe here? Do you believe
are
the woman?
right
Do you
about
believe
that. There is
a
that
rising
element.
star who's of the type that Hollywood wants to be casting in a lot of these roles
that is a factor to consider. But even in a perfect world, right, where if that wasn't a factor, the fact is that they've already put so much investment into him.
Yes.
He's been the subject of so much of their marketing campaigns, and dressing him up in the girly foo-foo outfits because that's how they want to brand him, I guess.
Is that from Ant-Man?
Yeah, they did.
I didn't see. Was this?
They did a photo spread of him wearing these pink girly coats and very effeminate type. Yeah, I don't know what the heck they're doing.
Is he in the army? Was he in the army? Is that why he was doing army ads? Was he?
I actually didn't know about that until this article.
I know Adam Driver was in the military before he turned to acting. I don't know if this gentleman was either. I mean,
might have been. Yeah.
Again, yeah.
But honestly, yeah. So they've got to get that stuff figured out, and that's a concern. And yeah, I personally, I mean, your first instinct is, well, his attorney's saying he's innocent. Well, what else is his attorney going to say? But
he says he has evidence, though, proving that he's innocent.
Well, yeah, and if you've got witnesses, you've got videotape and stuff these days. That's pretty good. It's sad that someone should have to prove their innocence. But here's the other side. Does Disney get involved and say, you know what? Okay, we'll make this go away. We'll just pay this girl off. That's a bad road to go down too, and I could see why a business as big as Disney would do that. But then suddenly, how many other women has he dated who start coming out and saying, "Oh, I had a situation about a year ago where he kind of heaved a chair at me and this and that, and maybe you should pay me some money."
See, we just don't know what's going on. We need to just let the courts handle it. Don't. Just let him prove his innocence, and then
we are not drawing any conclusions or assumptions here.
No, I'm not trying to do it one way or the other.
Bringing you the news, and this is not good news for Disney once again.
It doesn't look good, yeah. And again, I don't know. We don't know the truth of the situation. It will come out in court, and I'm not going to cast aspersions until we know what happened. I think
Right.
we just have to do that. So, Sir Cliff Richard got wrongly accused. Career finish. Yeah, your career can get finished even over a fall, even if the accusation is false. So that's why I'm not going to jump on any kind of bandwagon right now. I
We're going
also
to be
don't
getting to
know.
that
Yeah,
with another one
yeah.
in a little bit, not related to
So
Disney, but we'll get
so
there.
we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, not a good look for Disney right now. Again, it could just be an unfortunate circumstance that was beyond their control, but we'll see.
And the hits just keep on coming, even though this is not as
This
big
is
a
the
profile
comics.
thing. Yes, it is. This
Okay.
is the 12th. If by my count, this is the 12th time Captain Marvel is getting canceled. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this one too.
Carol Danvers' current era is coming to an end as Marvel announced writer Kelly Thompson's run on Captain Marvel will end with an oversized 50th issue. Marvel announced Captain Marvel number 50, a double-sized issue releasing in June 2023, will conclude Thompson's run on the series. The current Captain Marvel run began in 2019 from Thompson. Artist Carmen Carnero, color artist Tamra Bonvillain, and letterer VC's Clayton Cowles, and has followed Carol during various adventures, the most recent of which has seen her join the X-Men to fight the Brood. The publisher has not yet announced if a new creative team will take over after Thompson or if Captain Marvel number 50 marks the end of the series. Publisher said Captain Marvel number 50 has been an impossible journey, one that's taken Carol Danvers across time and space and pitted her against enemies new and old. This historic run has put Marvel's premier heroine through the gauntlet, and now the boss of space burns brighter than ever. No one believed she would get this far, but that's the power of Captain Marvel and her Carol core. They will
No one
never give
believed she
up.
could get this far, but she's leaving because the title failed.
Higher,
Bigger,
further,
better, stronger,
faster,
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 higher.
to the
Yeah.
very end. When Marvel asked me to write Carol's new Captain Marvel series back in 2018, and lead up to her first film, I was delighted and also terrified, but I'm glad I didn't let the terror win because it has truly been a fantastic experience. Thompson said, I've worked with some of the most incredible people in the business. I'd list them all, but at 50 issues, it is truly a massive list. But I certainly have to call our editor, Sarah Brunstad, who brought me in and helped me build this block from the very beginning. She has been a constant source of support through the run, and I don't think either of us ever imagined it would be nearly 5 years deep, heading toward issue 50. Is this when it really sunk? Was when this took over for Captain Marvel?
No,
Was it
I
this
would say it
run?
was before this.
It was happening before.
Captain Marvel has been canceled like 12 times, and they, it's like that thing from what was it? Was it? It wasn't Legally Blonde. It was the one with Alicia Silverstone. That bit about trying to make fetch happen. Quit trying to make fetch happen. Fetch is not going to happen. Well, quit trying to make Captain Marvel. Well, Carol Danvers. Quit Clueless. That's the one I was trying to think of. Thank you. Quit trying to make Carol Danvers happen. Carol Danvers is not going to happen. Nobody wants her comic. Okay. Nobody wants her toys. Nobody wants the movie. Okay.
I kind of like the old design of the old Carol Danvers, I guess, when she was Ms. Marvel with the leotard, black leotard, and the long flowing blonde hair. I thought that was a good
Yes,
look.
the
But
original Carol Danvers. See,
yes.
they've destroyed that
Mhm.
character. They
Yeah.
really have. They turned her into something she was never meant to be. But I want to go back to what you said. The publisher has not yet announced if the new creative team, if a new creative team will take over after Thompson, or if Captain Marvel number 50 marks the end of the series. Let me translate that for you, folks. What that means is, if this was just a regular comic going the way it normally does, this would be an absolute cancellation. We're waiting on word from the higher ups at Disney regarding marketing for the Marvels to decide
Oh
whether they want to
no.
force us to keep the comic going.
They could start a new
That's
comic
what it
just called
means.
the Marvels. It's supposed to be all three of them, right, or whatever. They could do that
Mm-hmm.
next. But if
Which,
yeah.
along with everything else, has been pushed back and is in rewrites and reshoots and all kinds of stuff.
But if you don't like her politics, don't buy her books for 12 times. Okay, yes, I know. It's I don't want to
Yeah,
read any more
that
of this
is.
article. It's Captain Marvel. I just is that the one
Well,
that was
no,
making her
yeah, you got the main
look
point out. You
less
don't have to
feminine
go.
with each issue? It was like the opposite. It was like Power
Yeah.
Girl in reverse. It's like
Although I did like that cover that was in that article that I used in the thumbnail. It's actually a pretty good you know, depiction of her, but we haven't
there's
seen her looking like that for a very, very long time.
some of the best art, and there's still good covers being made. Like there was a wonderful cover made for Green Lantern, but then it was turned into tamales. a few
Yeah,
years.
you know, no, you're absolutely right. I mean,
So
it's
the artists they get to do the covers are usually not the people writing the stuff. They usually hire out and they can do good stuff.
well, the comic book artists are dealing with the same kind of thing that we were just talking about with the digital artists in the movies. They're talented, they can do good stuff, but the editorializers and the writers are, you know, undermining them.
Yeah.
Should we pivot to the other superhero
Let's
company?
just pivot to Warner Brothers. Um
Had to split this one up.
so Warner Brothers
Is in a transition here. They are
I'll be nice and
dumping.
say they're in a transition, yeah.
Yeah, they are dumping all of the stuff that's in the can from the end of the Snyderverse, and they just want it out there and done. Take their losses so that they can move on to whatever James Gunn is going to do. And I'll get into a little bit more of why this particular franchise has been so destroyed. But let's go ahead and go with the article, and we'll
Sure.
go from there.
So David F. Sandberg's Shazam: Fury of the Gods was released, and the director is opening up about the heavy criticism against the DC film. Sandberg took to Twitter to note that he had just gotten his lowest critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, which stood at 52% at the time of this post. The filmmaker also noted that the superhero sequel had the highest audience score of the same film, with 88%. I wasn't expecting a repeat of the first movie critically, but I was a little surprised because I think it's a good film. Oh well, he tweeted. For comparison, Shazam got a 90% from critics and an 82% from audiences for the film released in 2019. Although audiences gave the sequel a high score, the number is not translating to the box office. Shazam: Fury of the Gods opened to a 30.5 million this weekend, below the projected 35 million, which was already on the low side. Sandberg
Yeah.
also revealed that after the DC film, he was taking a step back from more superhero movies and getting back into the horror genre. As I've been saying for a while now, I'm very eager to get back to horror as well as try some new things. After 6 years of Shazam, definitely done. Okay, we're going to get to that with the next article. 30.5 million. That doesn't seem very high to me.
It is not, and I heard that they're pushing it to stream a lot sooner than people expected, which means they're kind of done with it. It's it is not. It didn't receive very good reviews, and personally, and you know what, I'm gonna drop this for people to just take a look at their leisure. It's humorous, but I think it covers a lot of reality and truth. The Shazam Fury of the Gods pitch meeting makes some great points, specifically about how, in a lot of ways, Dwayne Johnson very much undermined Shazam 2. Shazam, excuse me, and we talked about this after Black Adam came out. I said they've got to bring together Captain Marvel and Black Adam, or it's going to be bad for both of them. And sure enough, he said, no, I don't want to fight Shazam. I want to fight Superman. Congratulations. You hung your hat on a dead franchise because that's out and that's done. And we're not bringing back that iteration of Superman. That means we're not bringing you back, and you're not hooked up with a Captain Marvel, which could have maybe rolled into the new canon, but now it can't be So you shot yourself in the foot. Congratulations.
Another question I had about this too. Wonder Woman apparently has a cameo in this as well,
Yes,
right?
she does, and it's Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot. Yeah.
Why is she only in it for a few minutes or like for a minute? It's like have her
Well,
in
for
for
the
more than
same reason that they had
Cavill in at the very end of Black
yeah,
Adam, I guess.
which
Okay.
my understanding from what I have heard, that actually was Cavill. He actually did show up to do that cameo.
No,
But
I
then
know he was there. Yeah.
but then because of stuff that was going on with Black Adam and all that kind of stuff, they said no, we don't want his and all the supposition about what was going to be happening with the Snyderverse. They said, yeah, we don't want to show Cavill, so just take his head out. We'll do it as a joke for Superman showing up, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't Cavill. That
Interesting.
hurts the whole thing too.
I wish they had just kept that original scene intact. That would have been awesome, but oh well.
So the cameo of Gal Gadot, does that further underline the relationship between Shazam and the Snyderverse? And since the
Yeah,
Snyderverse
it's
is over,
stuck
that
in
means
there.
Shazam's over?
I
Or does it
no,
give
it's
people hope
over.
that maybe Gal Gadot's going to come back as Wonder Woman in the new
No,
canon?
it's
Yeah,
over.
I
It's
agree with
over.
you, but
You know
that's the
who
kind of talk that's going on.
do people like the actress playing Mary Marvel? Because I was looking at her and I was thinking, could she maybe play a Wonder Woman, a younger Wonder Woman?
That's a brilliant idea.
If you look at her, I mean,
because a lot of people
if they
do
have to
like her.
recast,
Yes, yeah.
and she's in her 20s now. You'll
Everyone's
have a
been
young
saying,
Superman, yeah.
they need to do more with this person. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I love Gal Gadot. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're going to be
Oh,
using
yeah.
her again. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. What are Warner's new pronouns? It's no longer Warner Brothers. They call themselves Warner Media.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
actually right.
so they did get rid of the brothers. You're right there. I mean, maybe it's still technically is more, yeah, but Mary Marvel actress looks great. I think she could be Wonder Woman. I think she has the look of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So that might be something to think about. James Gunn or whoever's in charge, Safran, whoever's running things now, maybe you could still use her in a future Warner Brothers superhero movie. But anyway, I don't know. There was no Mr. Mind in this movie, correct?
No,
the
correct,
worm thing
correct.
that they showed him at the end of the first Shazam movie, because heaven forbid we ever make good on our
Yeah.
is the next Aquaman movie going to have Black Manta in it? I hope, because they teased that he was going to be a major player in the next
Honestly,
Aquaman
I have
movie.
to tell you, I have not been paying attention because I am so not interested in that movie. As long as there's anything having to do with Amber Heard in it, I want nothing to do with it.
So we have three more from Warner's left. We have.
Do we even need to do the next one? Talk, because we've already touched on in the past.
Just skip it. He says he's done with superhero movies for a while. Okay. Go back to horror. Everybody wants to do horror movies.
Should we jump to the Joker sequel?
Yeah, I did want to make a point though. Joker is not part of Snyderverse. The three remaining Snyderverse movies are Blue Beetle, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and Flash. Those are the last three.
And in fact, the Joker thing, they are being pretty clear that falls under the
Elseworlds.
Elseworlds, along with the Sparkly Bats guy. Again, those were stories that had to be put out because they were already in production.
I didn't quite understand why they didn't want to tie the Joker movies to the Robert Pattinson movies. Couldn't they technically do that and just have the Joaquin Phoenix Joker?
At this point, it almost doesn't matter because I don't think either one of them is going to continue forward after this.
So
no sense messing it up any more than they absolutely have to. But yeah, now we get to see what Lady Gaga is actually going to look like as Harley Quinn. Are we excited about that, people?
I don't know. Okay, I'll read the article. Lady Gaga stepped out in character as Harley Quinn for the first time on the set of the upcoming Joker sequel in New York City Saturday. The 36-year-old singer and actress was pictured filming scenes at Manhattan's City Hall for Todd Phillips' Joker. Fully do? Am I saying that right? Is your French better
Yeah.
than mine? Okay. Which will see the return of Joaquin Phoenix in the titular role. The Just Dance hitmaker wore a quilted crimson blazer with tulle sleeves over a black and white diamond pattern corset top with a black leather miniskirt and a diamond pattern sheer black stockings. Gaga's blonde hair was slicked back from her forehead, and she sported black Harlequin eye makeup along with bright red lipstick and contour blush. The 13-time Grammy Award winner was surrounded by hundreds of extras as she filmed scenes on the steps of City Hall. She was seen amid a crowd of protesters as she was escorted into the building by Gotham City police officers. The protesters held flags and signs that said "Free Joker," "Joker Marry Me," and "Justice for Joker." In one scene, Gaga turned around to look at the crowd and raised her fist before she was led into the building by officers in tactical gear. What are you laughing about that?
That actually doesn't sound like a horrible storyline. I'm picturing if this was
It may
a
not
story,
be.
this storyline happening, say, in the animated universe, I could see it. I could see it. You know,
Joker Folie à Deux is the follow-up to Phillips' 2019 film Joker, which told the original story of the classic DC villain. The movie became the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time, and Phoenix won Best Actor Oscar for his portrayal of the failed clown turned nihilistic criminal. The last June, Phillips confirmed that a sequel was in development as he shared an Instagram photo of a script penned by him and Joker co-writer Scott Silver and a snap of Phoenix reading their screenplay. In August, Gaga revealed that she had joined the project in a post that she shared on social media. Though her role hasn't been officially confirmed, it was widely speculated that she will be playing Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Harley Quinn, a psychiatrist who falls in love with the Joker. And the latest set of photos appear to confirm the casting. On Valentine's Day, Phillips teased the romance between the two in a post he shared on Instagram. He uploaded a photo which Gaga was seen for the first time as she embraced Phoenix's Joker.
So, couple things. I don't know if the talk about this being a musical is legit or rumor. I'm gonna say what I said before. A musical is a huge gamble. It could be really, really good, or it could be really, really bad. And add to it the fact that you're doing it about the Joker and Harley. All the more, it could be really, really good, or it could be really, really bad.
I know recent years I've gotten tired of Harley Quinn.
I agree with that too. There's a lot of baggage with the fans of Harley and what she should and should not be. So this is going to be, I mean, at the very minimum, they're going to be comparing Lady Gaga to
Margot
Robbie. So you already have people
who was the right looking actress for the part. I think she was,
and I think she tried her best.
She's
not a bad actress.
No, she isn't.
She is a good actress. I think she did her best to get the character, but I think she got mixed messaging in the directing that she received. But let's kind of put that aside. We also have... I got to rethink what I was about to say. I was about to say we've never seen a good portrayal of Harleen Quinzel.
Yes, that's true.
Before she becomes Harley. That's not entirely true. Probably the best portrayal of Harleen was Mia Sara in the Birds of Prey TV series.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We actually never got, except maybe a little glimpse at the end of her as Harley, but she never fully went full Harley. So we've never seen the good origin story. The closest we've gotten is in the cartoon. And even then, I feel like they started with Harley, they went back and told her origin, and we still never really got a good development of who Harleen Quinzel was. If they do that here, great. I'm guessing they probably won't, though. Although, maybe that's unfair, because we got a good Joker origin story, maybe we'll get a good Harleen, origin story here.
This is a question mark for me. I'm kind of oddly enough, while the Joker was so polarizing on all sides once, I'm kind of neutral on the movie itself. I see it as this is a Joker telling. This is almost from the Joker's POV, telling an origin story about himself, and of course, his
Right,
origin stories we know are faulty anyway.
right.
So, and this is even made clear in the movie itself when it's clear that scenes are happening that are not that were not that you see in retrospect didn't
Not
actually
happening in
happen because
reality. Yeah.
like he almost seems like he's having a romance with his neighbor and he's in her apartment. It's like, and you can tell she's never had a conversation with him before, and he's been having all these conversations with her throughout the throughout the movie. So I don't know. We'll see if this will be an interesting movie. I know some people are hating on Lady Gaga as Harleen Quinzel. They need someone to sing. They need a singer. This is going to be a musical. I don't know about this being a musical.
It could, yeah, it could be interesting, especially if they're going with the, unreliable narrator kind of a concept with, um, with this story. We'll see, we'll see. But I think there's another element to be considered here, and just like with the Pattinson Batman, just like with Shazam, we're dealing with properties that the fans kind of know this isn't going anywhere. So do I really want to invest in this?
But to be fair, this is this weird art house DC movie, which, for all we know, they were never planning a third one anyway. Maybe it is only going to be a 2 movie thing, right?
You could be right. Yep, you could be right.
I
We'll
didn't
just have to
necessarily
see.
expect to get a sequel. I thought it might have been interesting if maybe you know, we could have seen things from the Joker's point of view as maybe he gets involved with organized crime, and then eventually in the last movie he's actually fighting Batman, but we're seeing it all from his perspective. That might have been kind of
You know
interesting,
what would
but
actually be really
yeah,
funny? If they did the same thing with Harley's character that they did with Joker in the last one, where it's
yeah,
all, unreliable, narrative. You don't know what's real and what's not. And ultimately, she's got this whole romance
like
in
a
her
Clary
head.
Starling thing, Silence of the
Well,
Lambs type thing. I don't
no,
know.
actually more like she has this fantasy in her head that she's got this relationship with Joker, and at the end the Joker's like, who are you and what do you want? You know? That would be funny.
I don't know.
That would be an interesting way to go. But I don't know. I say I don't believe there's enough talent to make a good story, but then again, everything I've heard about Joker was it was really, really good and well done. Just barely a Joker movie. But
Watch it and judge for yourself. That's what I'll
yeah.
say about it. I'm not on the anti train because I would argue people, for starters, people out there they love Joker being mysterious and they like him.
Yeah.
They're saying he's not supposed to have an origin, all this, but I call his origin in this movie into question regardless, though, because I said it's very messed up anyway. In fact, we don't. Even if we're going by the movie's own logic, we don't really know where he came from anyway. Because he. I'm not going to say anything else about if you watch it. Watch it for yourself. Make up your own mind. You don't have to like it, but I didn't hate it. I'll say that.
Well,
TMNT.
and I was going to say, this whole idea that I think a lot of people are having problems with Arthur Fleck. Who's Arthur Fleck? We've never heard of him before. This isn't the. Well, okay. I would love, uh, uh, just in any subsequent Joker, appearance in a Batman movie, the Joker, aliases, Arthur Fleck, Jack Napier, blah 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 down the line, right? I mean, it's just another, you know, claimed origin story, claimed background that may or may not be real, right?
Right. When you see it, you'll understand. I'd have to spoil something in the movie for you by explaining that maybe that isn't his name, or maybe that's not the name he was. I'm not going to say
Right.
anything. You could
And I
treat it as an
like that.
Elseworld story too. That this is a what if story of what could happen with the Joker, and he still ends up on the same path to becoming that
Sure.
character too. You could treat it like that too, which is, I
Yeah.
guess, what they're calling it anyway at DC. So, Yeah, I saw Joker as a Black Label. What if? Yeah, maybe if you treat it like that, and he's still sort of destined to still become this character. Because we've seen things on like in the Crisis comics. I think one where the Joker was a police officer, right? Jack, whatever that character was, like he's arresting Batman as a police officer or something. I think that was a
Interesting.
scene in some comic in some Elseworlds thing. So it was an interesting thing, but. Anyway, let's move on to the next article.
This one's all you, man. You know this stuff. This is gaming. You know your stuff.
Expert. You want to paste it for me?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. A video game based on the hit Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles graphic novel, The Last Ronin, is in the works, Polygon reports. The news comes from Polygon's interview with Doug Rossman, Senior Vice President for Games and Emerging Media at Paramount Global. According to Rawson, The Last Ronin video game will be a single-player action role-playing game title in the vein of Norse-themed God of War series. Like the story it adapts, the game will feature a mature tone. The game's developer has not been named, but the project is years away from release. The Last Ronin was published in 2020 as a 5-issue miniseries by IDW. It takes place in the dark, futuristic New York, where 3 of the 4 turtles have been killed. The surviving turtle, whose identity is revealed at the end of the first issue, we won't spoil it, dons a black mask and seeks revenge by fighting crime using both his and the weapons of his fallen brothers. It's cool and a very grim story if you haven't read it, and we're excited to see it translate into a game. Rosen also mentions in the same interview that Paramount sees opportunities to create different types of Teenage Ninja Turtles games that target young and adult audiences. The Turtles are enjoying quite the renaissance lately thanks to the launch of the well-received beat-em-up Shredder's Revenge. An excellent new Turtles game that came out last year. I recommend everybody you pick that up if you're a fan of the old school Turtles games. The Nostalgia from a Cowabunga collection, and that was an excellent collection of all Turtles games too. So you got a double header last year. And a Shredder themed Call of Duty pack. I know nothing about that. And even a new animated film coming out in theaters this August on that last one.
Yeah.
I haven't read The Last Ronin yet. We have it in the library. I should really check it out. Apparently it was very well received. I wonder if this is like a what if end story for the Turtles, kind of like, the Dark Knight is a what if end story for Batman,
Mm-hmm.
So, but apparently it was very well received. I'll have to read it. And the game could be good. I mean, I think they want to make a good game out of it, so we'll see. So that might be good. I don't know. You used to play the old Turtles game in the arcade, right?
I did. Well, specifically in the commons area at my university, but yeah.
That one's included on the collection that came out last year, the Cowabunga collection.
You mentioned that,
the arcade collection. There's a new cover for the Turtles theme song because I guess it was a rights issue using the original cover in the game.
Oh, okay.
The original band that sang it. Someone doesn't want to pay money. Okay, so producer John Landau reveals, this is a short one, but you want to go and post the next one?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I didn't realize we were that close to being done on that one.
Well, I don't think there's, until I see footage, I don't know.
There's not much to say.
And I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of these new God of War games either. I like the older ones better, which were more action-based. But it still might be good. Maybe like an Elden Ring Turtles game in a cyberpunk New York where you're fighting a cyber Shredder. I don't know. I'm assuming Shredder was the villain in Last Ronin, but we'll see. Maybe it's a surprise. Shredder is my favorite supervillain, but anyway. Okay, producer John Landau reveals Alita sequel talks are still happening. What?
Yeah.
According to Insider.com, an Alita Battle Angel sequel is still on the table. Have there been any conversations about Alita? This the interviewer asks. Several, even in the last couple of weeks. James Cameron's longtime producing partner John Landau told Insider during a press day for the digital release of Avatar: The Way of Water. He says there's been several conversations. They think there's many directions they can take Alita and that it speaks to a modern audience. So they want to make an Alita sequel. We know that.
Yep.
Do you think we'll get one?
Avatar
did well, so that's the one thing in its favor.
I go round and round about this in my own head. I follow a lot of people on Twitter that are in the community of, the Alita Army and are really pushing to see the Alita sequel. I feel that the Book of Boba Fett was sacrificed on the altar of getting an Alita sequel. So you'd almost like there to be some kind of payoff there. But then the other side of my mind comes down with do we
The
really
Vespas
want to
show
see?
up in the Alita sequel. The Vespas will show up in the Alita sequel,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they would be well placed there.
Yeah, that's right. They
My
probably were made for it. Yeah.
yeah, my concern is that do we want an Alita sequel made under Disney's auspices? That's the concern.
It has to get made sooner rather than later. I'm sorry, these actors are not getting any younger, and the director Rodriguez wants to jump on board. What I'm hoping is it'll fall under independent purview, 20th Century Studios, unless maybe Disney sells off 20th Century
Well,
Studios to
and
somebody else.
you just
That
reminded
might,
me of
yeah,
something else. As long as this is under, Cameron. Cameron has his own studio. Disney did not get any say in what happened with
Avatar.
Avatar, so they probably won't get any say in Alita. So maybe. But yes,
Yeah.
in my heart of hearts, I want that Alita sequel. I really do.
Maybe they'll sell 20th Century Fox off to somebody else too, and just keep the X-Men and the Fantastic Four.
Or maybe they end up going bankrupt and they get bought up, piecemeal anyway, regardless of what they want. I mean, it's looking more and more likely every day, and the more people that say Disney's too big to fail, every day that is less and less true.
This next one, yeah, this is a puzzle. You want to post it, Paramount? The
Yeah,
next Paramount thing.
it's strange. I see some possibility there, but yeah, let's do it.
They made a video game titled Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, right? And I have not picked it up because it's not based. It doesn't look. It doesn't have the look of the original '50s movie. It's got some guy with a beard on it instead of Jimmy Stewart. And I'm like, how is this related to Vertigo or Alfred Hitchcock? And I'm like, I'm not.
When I was at, I think it was Universal. Is it Universal Theme Park? I think that's where I was. They had a Hitchcock, section.
Yes,
And-
yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they had one in Orlando too. Yeah.
Okay, and well, that's the one that I was at. I was at.
Yeah,
the
they
one
had
in
a
Orlando.
Hitchcock section in there. Yeah.
And did you see the not Vertigo? Did you see the rear window?
Rear window. I used to get to
display.
Look through it through the binoculars. That
Yes,
was cool.
you'd look through the binoculars, and you would look. I don't know how to describe it. It was like looking across a street or an alleyway to a big building with a bunch of windows in it, and you can look into each one of the windows and see what's happening in them.
Yes.
And it was, I don't know if it was back projected or what. It was one of those very, very clever kind of setups. But if you watched any one window long enough, it looped. And what you would see is you're looking for the murder, right? Can you catch the murder?
Oh.
And what was very clever was that so many of the different, scenes taking place in each one of the windows is misleading. It looks like there's a murder happening, and then you realize it was just a husband sneaking up behind his wife to scare her, and then it's all just a joke or whatever. Or, something else that looks like it's about to be a murder, and then it's not. And honestly, I couldn't stay there long enough and watch all the windows long enough. But if there was an actual murder that takes place, I didn't see it. Okay, yes, I was focusing on the girl getting out of the shower. All right.
That was neat, though. They had all sorts of Hitchcock stuff there. They had stuff from North by Northwest. I remember that. There was
Yep.
I think they have something for the birds as well, I believe.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Big fan of classic Hitchcock. Miss Hitchcock. Wish we had. Let's go into this article, and I'll go into more on that as I read this article. Okay, if you're going to remake a movie, why not remake one of the most acclaimed movies ever made? That's a question that has an answer. No, don't do it. But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. Why would you do it? Why would you do it?
Paramount Pictures has preemptively acquired a remake of Alfred Hitchcock's 1958 classic psychological thriller Vertigo as a possible starring vehicle for Robert Downey Jr. Him, yes. He's an
Yeah.
actor of the quality of a Jimmy Stewart. I'm
Sure.
fine with him in that role. The actor is producing the project with his wife Susan Downey through their Team Downey production company, along with John Davis and John Fox via Davis Entertainment. Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight is set to write the script. What is with the Peaky Blinders guy?
I don't know.
Getting passed around. Hot off the heels of his commitment to write an untitled Star Wars movie for Lucasfilm, as Variety reported on Wednesday. It'd be funny if the two scripts got sent to the wrong place, right?
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay, Downey has kept a low profile as an actor since the release of 2019's Avengers Endgame, which is one of the highest grossing movies ever made, and 2020's Doolittle, which is not.
Yeah.
He produced and appears in the documentary Senior about his father, and he's next set to appear this July in Christopher Nolan's historical epic Oppenheimer, opposite Cillian Murphy, but otherwise, Downey's dance card has remained remarkably open. Well, to be fair, I think he needed a break after doing
Yeah.
all those movies. I mean, he didn't get a break at Marvel. Like they were wanting to do another Sherlock Holmes movie over at Warner's, and they couldn't get him free because of those commitments he got at Marvel.
Yeah.
The original Vertigo starred James Stewart as John Scotty Ferguson, a San Francisco police detective who retires due to a paralyzing fear of heights, brought on by a severe case of vertigo after he's hired a tail an acquaintance's wife, Madeline Kim Novak. Scotty becomes obsessed with her, but his fears renders him powerless to save her when she climbs the tower of a Spanish mission and plunges to her death. And then things get truly strange. Vertigo was not a smash success when it was first released in theaters, and it divided critics. By the 1980s, it started to gain a recognition as a masterpiece. In 1982, in a survey of best movies ever made by the British Film Institute Sight and Sound publication, conducted every 10 years, Vertigo cracked the top 10, continued to climb the list, reaching the number one slot in the 2012 survey. Variety ranked Vertigo 32nd on its list of 100 best films ever made. The movie has eclipsed the French novel that inspired it, D'Entre les Morts, or The Living and the Dead, by Beaulieu Narcejac. The pen name for writing partners Pierre Beaulieu and Pierre Enrond. And Arod. Okay. The book follows the same storyline as Vertigo, but is set in Paris during the height of World War II. The ending is also much different. A handful of Hitchcock films have been made over the years, most notoriously the shot-for-shot remake of 1960's Psycho by Gus Van Sant
Yeah.
in 1998.
That was a weird, experiment.
A director I like, Ty West, remarked on it that it was one of the greatest experiments movies ever made, because he said, what if you were to reshoot a movie shot by the same director? And he says, would it have the same effect? And he says, no, it doesn't. But he was interested that Gus Van Sant did it the way he did, because it's something about just having Hitchcock direct that movie himself made it better, or made it the classic that it was for Psycho. It was interesting. Psycho was a movie Hitchcock made because Vertigo was not the big success, right?
Right.
And he did Psycho later, and Psycho much smaller budgeted, black and white. Anyway, Hitchcock remade himself, redoing his 1934 thriller *The Man Who Knew Too Much* in 1956 with Stewart and Doris Day. And filmmakers are as varied as Brian De Palma with *Obsession* and *Body Double*, David Lynch with *Mulholland Drive*, and Mel Brooks with *High Anxiety* have drawn heavy inspiration from Vertigo in particular.
True.
No American studio has attempted an outright remake until now. I discovered Brian De Palma's *Body Double* a couple years ago. I love that movie. It actually is, in so many respects, if you were to do a Hitchcockian style movie in the modern 80s, what would it be like, as opposed to it being a nostalgia trip?
I thought that at the time. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I very much enjoyed it. And of course, they bring up Mulholland Drive as well. I don't think I've seen De Palma's *Obsession*, but maybe I'll have to look for that. But *Body Double* is an interesting movie. I think Bret Easton Ellis mentioned it on his podcast. That's how I discovered it. And he said *Body Double* was Hitchcock done through the lens of a softcore porn film.
Yeah,
that's how he compared it. And it has kind of that sleazy look to it, and even the thing, but it works so well. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know about them remaking Vertigo. For starters, is this going to be period, or is it going to be modern times?
Yeah,
that's my big question.
Yeah, I've always said this. If it was a classic, it should not be remade. If
Yeah.
it was, a flawed film that had a great idea, that's the one you want to redo.
Yeah.
You know,
And if they're doing period, what's the point?
right?
Even though Downey, I think, is a good modern uh, ca- uh, modern actor to replace Jimmy Stewart. If you were to replace Jimmy
Exactly.
Stewart, I think he would work in that role. If you're to do it modernize it, that might be interesting. It also might be interesting. They're trying to do a direct adaptation of the book, which apparently has a different ending and takes place in Paris during World War II. That could be interesting too if they decide to go that
They
route.
said it in World War II. That would be even better.
Yeah, well,
But
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, yeah. So they do Paris in World War II. That might be interesting too. So I'm not necessarily writing this off, and they have to know they're treading on very thin ice here because this movie is very beloved. This is like trying to remake The Wizard of Oz or Casablanca. This is of that tier caliber. So we'll see.
yep,
Also, how old is the actress they're going to cast aside Robert Downey Jr.?
don't know.
Because this is a problem. Kim Novak was much younger than Jimmy Stewart in that movie.
Yes,
And
yes.
back then, you could get away with having an older leading man with a younger leading lady, but you're not going to do that
You still
now.
kind of can actually.
Not as much as you used to. Uh, we'll see. Like it could be
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, how old is Robert Downey Jr. at this point? What's his age? Maybe you can look it up for me real quick. I don't
I
know.
don't
I
know.
didn't
I
do
think
it.
he's in his 50s.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And I don't know what actor she would cast in that role either.
They could cast just about anyone.
Maybe Ava Green, but maybe she's getting too old for that part. I don't know. I don't know.
Actually, Ava Green would be
57.
57. Netter says. Ava
Yeah,
Green actually would
I
be
just don't know.
well cast against Robert Downey Jr. But I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Anyway, let's move on.
Yep.
That's an interesting one. It could either be genius or it could be a disaster waiting to happen. So we'll see.
True.
Rick and Morty creator has assault charges dropped. I remember when the story broke months back. I didn't send it to you. I'm not a big fan of Justin Roiland, but
Right.
I also didn't want to pile on when everybody else was because I
Right.
figure everyone else is doing it. I'm not going to do it, which in many respects was good because he may actually be innocent. U.S.
Yep.
prosecutors have dropped domestic violence charges against Rick and Morty co-creator and voice actor Justin Roiland. Charges involving an ex-girlfriend were dismissed due to lack of sufficient evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. A spokeswoman for Orange County District Attorney told the Associated Press. Roiland tweeted the word justice and said, "I'm so deeply shaken by the horrible lies reported about me." He said he wanted to move forward. He added, "I'm so disappointed that so many people were so quick to judge without knowing the facts based solely on the word of an embittered ex trying to bypass due process and have me canceled."
Welcome to the world of the internet.
But yeah, that it may have succeeded even partially is shameful. Roiland, 43, who co-created Rick and Morty in 2013 with Dan Harmon and voiced the title characters for the anarchic Emmy-winning animated sitcom about a scientist and his grandson. When the charges came to light in January, Adult Swim, part of the Cartoon Network, said had ended our association with Roiland and that Rick and Morty would continue without him for 7 months. The reports said his roles would be recast. So this is like it's like the creators of South Park. They do a lot of the voices on that show as well. He did
Right.
voices on this show.
Right.
He's been kicked out as creator, so he can't do the voices anymore either. Days later, Hulu filed suit by also dropping Roiland, who worked on the U.S. streaming site's animated shows Solar Opposites and Koala Man. The BBC has contacted Hulu and Adult Swim for comment in light of the charges being dropped. The gaming company set up by Roiland in 2016, Squanch Games, also said in January it had received Justin Roiland's resignation. In May 2020, prosecutors in California charged Roiland with 2 counts of domestic battery by with corporal injury and false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, and or deceit of an undefined woman who was living with him at the time. A police complaint said the alleged incident, which dated from January that year, resulted in a traumatic condition for the woman. This January, his lawyer said his client was innocent, adding, "We look forward to clearing Justin's name and helping him move forward as swiftly as possible." So one of the reasons I don't like Justin Roiland is because when the whole punch of Yahtzee thing was going on, he was all aboard
Yep.
with that. And the trouble is, who gets to judge who's a Yahtzee and who not? It could just be a conservative person. You understand? So
Yep.
I felt in his own way he was kind of contributing to some of that cancel culture going on. And I did watch Rick and Morty, at least some of the early episodes. I get why it has the following it has, but and that being said, though, despite my personal feelings on it, I am. It's really is looking like he's at least, well, he's not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and why Warner's, or at least the Cartoon Network branch, dropped him so quickly without knowing it. He's kind of the mind behind that show and also the voice actor. So what do? They hire him back now? Do they have to stick to their guns and not hire them back? This strikes me as how they jumped the gun with Johnny Depp as well. Remember with that whole thing going on with them with Ann Sarn? It was Ann Sarnoff that did that, right? So
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Does he have a lawsuit going forward against them on that? If they continue,
no news yet. I don't know.
yeah.
So
No, I'm just
Yeah.
putting the open question out there.
he might have a lawsuit claim,
especially if they continue to do Rick and Morty
because
without him.
it's a very popular show, and that show was so popular he was able to do other shows. It's kind of like how the guy that made The Simpsons was able to start doing Futurama on another network,
So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with that. Yeah, if I was him, I'd sue if there's a case there, no doubt about it. But so this is what we were talking about. We talked about it with Johnny Depp. We talked about it with Kang the Conqueror there. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. But you know what? Keep your nose clean. How does Viva Fry say it? Marry young, keep your schmeckle in your pants, and keep your nose clean is how he says it.
Yeah, and don't date a psychopath if that's the case.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the other thing too. I keep coming back to. You blame the other person as being a psycho. It's like, how long were you dating? You're a bad judge of character, if nothing else. Get your life together and, make better choices in your life.
Well, men sometimes think with other.
Keep your schmeckle in your pants, okay, marry young.
I'm just saying. All right, so some men like dangerous women. I'll put it another way, and sometimes that
can. No, okay. They think they do. Until reality hits. But yeah.
All right.
Let's hit that.
So anyway, we'll see how this plays out. But what I'm wondering is, does he now have the right to sue over Rick and Morty now?
And if he does, we will bring you that news when it comes up.
Because this isn't the case of like with Johnny Depp in the studio. Like they paid him for his part and they dismissed him.
Yeah.
He didn't own that character. He didn't own the property, but this guy does. So
exactly right.
Yeah. And I don't think it'll be the same without his input anyway, since he's the creator. So
yep.
Okay, let's move on to the last one. This is an addendum to a story reported on a few weeks back. You had a guest on the other week. The writer. Name has escaped me at the moment. Week before last Friday stream, your last guest.
Oh, you know what? I'm so focused on what's coming up. I've forgotten what I did in the past couple of weeks.
It's all right.
The other problem is, I've drunk since then. So,
you had a guest on who was a writer, and he mentioned everything that R.L. Stine didn't know about the editors, so I'm like, did I report the story wrong? Well, I wasn't the one who reported it wrong, but I still feel like I owe R.L. Stine an apology. So I'll go ahead and read this.
Storyman Jack. Okay.
Storyman Jack, yeah.
That was 2 weeks ago.
He was the guest that mentioned that and was like, what's he saying here? And I was like, and I went and looked it up. I'm like, oh, I was wrong. Okay. So, but I wasn't wrong. It was the Times of London. We'll get into it right now.
Well, yeah, no, we just bring to you what and this is the danger of believing the mainstream media. Yeah.
Kids horror author R.L. Stine has denied sanitizing his classic Goosebumps books to appease the woke, accusing his publisher of altering his work behind his back. The 79-year-old horror author spoke up after the Times of London claimed that he had, quote-unquote, censored over a dozen of his books, to avoid mentions of race or calling characters fat or crazy. This story is false. I have never changed a word in a Goosebumps book, Stein stated firmly to a report accusing him of re editing the books to appease the woke. Instead, the changes were made behind his back, Stein said in response to an angry reader accused him of being shameful for supporting censorship. I'd said something similar. I was like, well, R. Stein, if you don't care about the integrity of your work, why should I? Or you don't care about your work, why should
Right.
I care about reading it? Now, I do apologize for that statement because you were not the one that censored it. Okay, so the stories aren't true. I've
Yeah.
never changed a word in Goosebumps, he again said, of the second biggest selling book series after Harry Potter. Any changes were never shown to me, he stressed. The changes sparked outrage coming on the heels of woke edits to Roald Dahl's classic kids' books, as well as planned changes to Ian Fleming's James Bond books. Unlike those, however, the UK Times initially accused Stein of making the changes. Fox News contributor Guy Benson said that changing Stein's work without his approval was fittingly especially creepy. Altering published works to conform to ever shifting standards is more Orwellian than just banning them, he tweeted. I agree with that. I
Absolutely.
would
I
rather they
think we
just
said
ban
as
or not
much at the
publish
time.
things because I
Yeah.
think this is more sinister than just banning or book burning outright. I think this is more sinister. I'm reminded of the character in that 1984 who took joy in getting rid of words from the English language. And that's
Yeah.
what this is reminding me of. The UK Times said it found more than 100 edits in ebook versions of the series' 62 books. And I mentioned to Troy, if you bought an ebook version of the original version, does this now get censored during an update on your device or something?
Almost certainly, yeah. If it's on a platform they have control over, they'll change it. Yeah.
It noted how one character who acts real cool, like the rappers on MTV videos, now just acts real cool. That's not. I don't see how that sounds like a compliment. That's
Yeah.
and is described as having brown skin rather than being African American, which I thought was the PC term back when that book was written.
And probably at the time it was, yeah.
Mentions of slaves were also removed, as well as blackface worn by a character dressed as a dark and stormy night for Halloween. He was being clever. I'm dressed as a dark and stormy night. That was not a reference to being an ethnicity. And slaves have existed throughout all of human history. I'm just saying it's a thing. I don't know the context in this case. Characters are no longer roly poly, and plump ones were described as now cheerful. Characters Stein called overweight are now merely huge. One at least 6 chin is now at least 6 feet 6. That's a completely different thing. A line about schoolgirls having crushes on their headmaster was cut, and a boy who wolf whistled now merely whistled loudly, the UK Times noted. Something dismissed as girl stuff is now just not interesting. Numerous mentions of crazy were cut, replaced with terms such as silly, wild, scary, lost her mind. That's what crazy means, lost her mind. That's the same thing, and stressed. The term a real nut is now a real wild one, and nutcase is weirdo. See, I don't see how these changes are necessarily more polite in some
Exactly.
cases. Scholastic confirmed to the Post Wednesday that it has made changes to the series and has brought millions of kids to reading through humor with just the right amount of scary. Scholastic takes its responsibility seriously to continue bringing this classic adolescent brand to each new generation. What about preserving the work and not being a Philistine?
Exactly.
Now it's going to be editors
Exactly
versus
right.
writers. I know that's always kind of existed, but to be getting rid of an author's work after the fact like this, I don't, and without even their approval.
Well, and
Scholastic,
now it's and this was going back to what I said when we initially were talking about this. It's not just the author; it's all the people that have bought this book, that have read this book, that are fans of the books. Uh, it's already in the public. You don't get the right to decide now for the public. Your opportunity to make that decision was before it was published. Once it's published, death of the author. Do I now need to say death of the publisher as well?
yeah.
Death of the editor?
If you're a Goosebumps fan out there, please take these works and try to preserve them yourself. I'm doing my best with Bond. Okay, I can't take everything on, but and hopefully these things can be preserved by the fans until such a time as we're out of this woke nightmare that we're currently in. Scholastic reviewed the text to keep the language current and avoid imagery that could negatively impact a young person's view of themselves today, with a particular focus on mental health. Okay.
I just
Uh,
feel like if you don't think a book, the message of the book or whatever is appropriate or right or whatever, then don't publish it in the first place.
yeah,
You
just
know,
stop publishing it. I mean, it's annoying, but they did that with those Dr. Seuss books. I don't agree with that, but they're not going in and changing the language.
right?
Uh, I just this is ridiculous. You're really blitzed during that stream. What?
I was, yeah.
It was a good
I
stream. You should
looked back.
re-listen to it.
Well, I had to look back at the stream, and I was like, oh, I remember that night. I drank a little bit more than usual that night. That was a fun night, but wow, yeah, wow.
So let's see. I guess that wraps it up. I don't like the censorship going on, and I feel like there are
I
more
don't
books
either.
out there. And you notice too that this isn't the publisher is not even letting us know. People are discovering this on their own with these works. They're saying, "Wait a minute, that doesn't look right." So who knows what else has been censored recently? I just don't understand. I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like we're sanitizing everything.
You know, there is a concept in medicine. You hear about it all the time, the superbug, right? Where
Mm,
these bacteria are getting stronger and stronger through evolution because these sterile environments, they keep trying to kill these bacteria, and the ones that survive are the strongest ones, and eventually you can't destroy them because you've worked so hard to sanitize them. And I feel like uh, the things that people are trying to sanitize the world from, all you're really doing is you're destroying people's ability to deal with reality, because
yeah.
eventually reality comes and it's like I want to prevent my kids from knowing about bad things that happened in history, and well, you're kind of undermining your whole, my people were oppressed, for all these years. No, because I look at the history that I've seen, and that's been erased. So everything's been wonderful for everyone for so long. And, people of color have been, the King of England apparently at one, or the Queen of England at one time. I saw this movie, so that must be the case.
Well, I'm also thinking too. I'm using the analogy too, especially with these issues, is that it's almost like a child that you don't want to go out and play in the dirt and get dirty, or you might catch a cold, or you might get germs, not realizing that your child has to build up an immune system.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
a
know,
lot of pediatricians have said, let them play in the dirt, let them eat dirt. As long as you didn't treat it with weed killers and DDT
right?
and stuff. I mean, that kind of stuff is gross and icky, and you can do that. You can bring them and go, oh, that's gross. You shouldn't do that. That's bad. But
And
it's
and
not going to kill them, and it's literally going to make them stronger.
and I'm not trying to stigmatize mental health. People seeking mental health. I say seek treatment. We could probably all use a therapy
Absolutely.
session,
That
especially
is the
these
other
days.
big problem. We
Yeah,
ignore it. We don't treat it, and we actually reinforce it. We reinforce people's mental illnesses as their
well,
right to
yeah,
decide.
yeah. Well, there's that too. Yeah. But I'm also thinking, what's one of our greatest fears? So, some like one of our greatest fears is we're losing our mind, us going insane, or another fear is we might be running
Yeah.
into someone who's lost their mind and may do us harm. These are common
Look,
things in horror.
every
Okay,
and I know I'm speaking to people that are on this stream right now, people that have lost loved ones due to things like Alzheimer's.
yeah,
Okay, that is horrific. That is probably one of the most horrific ways to go. Not because of physical pain, but because of losing your mind, literally losing who you are.
yeah.
You know,
It's terrifying. Yeah. So that's a fear, and like I said,
and that is
some
something
of us
that
may have had
that
family
is what
members
art is for, is to explore those kinds of elements.
from
When
a
you take that away
distance.
from us, yeah, from a distance, right? But this idea of thought experiments where you don't actually have to live through the thing to understand it. But
Like, I'm fine if you don't like horror, but a lot of us do. In fact, a lot of children do as well. And a lot of
yeah,
that is us wanting to look at the things that scare us, or look at the dark side of life, or even the paranormal and things like that from a
how do
distance
you overcome
rather
a
than
fear?
facing. Yeah,
How do you overcome a fear? You face it. You
yeah.
deal with it, right? If you're afraid of spiders, the best thing you could do is have someone pour a bunch of spiders over you.
Or
Now,
dress up as a
preferably
bat,
ones that won't bite and kill you.
or dress up
I mean,
or dress up as a bat if you're afraid of bats, right? And just run around punching
the other
goons.
thing, if you people that people talk about being allergic to bee stings. Those were usually referring to people who literally go into anaphylaxis. But everyone, in a sense, is allergic to bee stings. That's what that reaction is. It's a reaction to the bee sting. Did you know that if you're not deadly allergic, if you get stung enough times, you no longer have that reaction to the bee sting.
Interesting.
You build up that histamine reaction in your system so that you get stung by the bee, and the initial poke hurts like a needle prick, but the poison doesn't do anything to you anymore because you get used to it. That's the desensitization. That's we need that. That is not something that the normal person shouldn't be insulated from, but
Yeah.
whatever.
A man dressed up as a bat would never sell.
Exactly.
No.
I can't even imagine such a thing.
Do you remember on Fringe when they were trying to describe Batman to the people on the alternate Earth, and they were saying, "I think you're talking. No, we don't have Batman here. We have Mantis." And I realized, remember that Fox show
Yes.
Mantis that was on one
Yes.
season? That was a reference to that. I think that was their big superhero on the alternate Earth was Mantis.
That's
That was
very,
funny.
very interesting.
That was
So
funny.
that almost implies that in the alternate universe there was a Batman and it just didn't go over very well.
And Mantis was the big superhero. I
And
think
Mantis was the one that caught on. Yeah, yeah.
Remember Mantis? That wasn't bad. It only lasted one season though. All right. I think that wraps us up for this week. We will be back next Sunday to talk about all things geek related, and maybe
Yep.
not geek related because it's my show. But
Yeah, we can talk about whatever Boomer
talk
wants.
about
It's his
industry
channel.
and hopefully things moving in a good direction. Like I said, not everything bad tonight. That last Ronin game might be good, and skip that movie.
And I'll always remind you, folks, vote with your wallets. Eventually, the stuff that we don't like dies. If enough people don't like it, you choke it off, it starves to death. The stuff we do like, they'll start giving us more of it in greater quantities and lesser quality, but we will get more of it.
So coming up Monday, we have soundtracks that Birdman is doing a concert review because he went to a John Williams concert recently. You'll be able to watch his live impressions of that concert. Hopefully he had a good time. I know they can be hit or miss sometimes, but
But we'll get the review, I'm sure.
Hopefully he didn't walk on stage and deck John Williams. I'm just saying. I'm kidding.
I mean, yeah, or go backstage and give his opinion directly to him afterwards, right?
No, actually, he's actually met him on a couple occasions. Actually, been very, very gracious.
Oh, that's great.
So is John. So is John Williams. Yeah, he met him a couple times. Tuesday, nothing as far as I know. Wednesday, we may be doing a stream. Depending on how Birdman's feeling. I know that we've been meaning to do LA Confidential, so keep an eye out. We'll see. Thursday.
Thursday over on Netter's Network, she's going to have her first official guest that's not her husband. And that will be Stephen Deleted Scenes Otten, who's been dropping all the links in the chat here because he's the awesome Blue Wrench. We will be talking about blue wrenching and the community and his channel and what he does on a regular basis. And make sure you all subscribe to him. But tune in to Netters on Thursday. There's the link right to the stream, so you can go hit the thumbs up even before the stream and hit that notification bell to let you know when she goes live. But I just told you when it's going to go live,
so I'll be tuning into that. Hopefully, I can catch that live this time around. Friday, you have Last Call. I'll be on with you, and you're going to have a chat with Ryan Roger Athey.
Athe, yes.
Athe. I,
Yep.
I,
He's a
yep.
returning guest, actually.
Yeah, he's been on before, but he does a lot of little videos. He took one of my suggestions and did a video based on it recently.
He does that a lot. He's
Yeah.
really good. He's what I appreciate about him, and it's really led to some changes in the notes that I do for you, Boomer, and actually having some notes for the questions that I ask people on Friday because of him. He is so organized. And he's old school organized in that he's got a notebook that he writes handwritten notes as you know, he plans out his
What?
streams and yes, and his
Like pen
questions
and
and stuff.
paper?
Absolutely, yes, exactly. And it's not like he's an old boomer like us. He's a
He
young,
has
young
VHS
guy.
tapes though. He has VHS tapes. I know that.
Yeah, there's a bit of an anachronism to him that I really really like. We'll probably talk more about that. But he is one I consider him to be one of the biggest cheerleaders of our community here on YouTube and social media. He did last summer. He did a video for me calling me a rising star.
Yeah.
You know, I felt really good about that. He had me a couple months ago as a guest on his reality based stream where he interviewed me about some topics related to you know, what I do and what we all do here on YouTube and being presenters on YouTube and so forth. That was great. I've had him on previously, and I thought, you know what, let's have him back just to hang out. Probably won't get, because we've already talked about him and his channel and his, you know, philosophies and stuff like that. So maybe we'll get a little bit more into maybe some of the topics that he would like to chat about. You know,
Cool.
just some friends getting together and talking over drinks.
But I
You know?
did mention he's been doing gaming related videos like rating systems, and so I said talk about the Atari Lynx. Do you know what the Atari Lynx is, Troy?
I don't think that even rings a bell. No.
It was Atari's portable game console that competed with the Game Boy.
Interesting.
It was actually designed by a couple guys, I think, from the Epix games, not necessarily Atari, but Atari kind of moved in.
Was it
And
good?
it was interesting. Here's what it was. It was fully backlit, color, and even like 16-bit. Didn't necessarily have the best resolution, but you don't need that on a screen that small.
Sure.
And for the time, it was rather astounding. It was 16-bit. The graphics were pretty good for a portable, and it just couldn't fight against the Game Boy. And they said one of the big problems with that, even the Game Gear Sega's portable system, was Nintendo understood that the most important thing you have on your portable game console was not a backlit screen, was not color graphics. It was having good battery life. Battery
Oh,
life on a
yeah.
portable system is what will make or break it. Nintendo understood
That
this,
is true.
and it's
Yes.
not until recently that with color screens. I mean, recently, like maybe last 15 years or so, maybe early 2000s, when you could have a backlit color screen that did not drain the batteries. You know,
Yeah.
so
There you go.
that's sort of where we are now. But back then, no, it would eat up the batteries. But it was still a nifty device. I kind of wish someone would make a replica Atari Lynx and sell it with a bunch of games included. That would be neat. But
Yeah.
Saturday, Netter's Network,
Yeah. Saturday,
Retro Cinema.
we will be watching the movie Chappie from 2015.
What am I doing? I'm not even highlighting these things as they come in. That's Last Call, and here we have Netter's Network Retro Cinema Chappie.
There you go. There you go.
What is Chappie?
Yeah. Chappie is the robot movie set in South Africa. The same director that did
District 9?
District 9, yes, thank you.
Is Hugh Jackman in it? Or am I thinking of a
Apparently
different
not.
movie?
I screwed it. See, I thought you were joking about my faux pas yesterday. That's what I said too. And Big Al said no. That was what was it? Real Steel or whatever, the Rock'em Sock'em
Oh,
Robots.
the Rock'em Sock'em Robot movie.
I made the exact same mistake, Boomer. I thought you were picking on me. You just made the same mistake I did.
No, I just made the same mistake. It's okay.
That is funny. Oh,
that
is
so Chappie, is it like a modern day Short Circuit basically? Is that what it is? Or
You could draw that comparison. It's a little bit. I mean, there's some humor in it, but it's a little bit more serious than that. But there are elements that are like that. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
if you haven't seen it before, I think you'll like it. And as you know, when we do these rewatches, if you haven't seen it or you don't have access to it, I'll be hosting the movie itself off platform,
Okay.
and I'll have the link in the chat so you guys can follow along with us as we're watching it.
He says Hugh Jackman isn't Chappie. Maybe he's in both.
Okay, see, I wasn't wrong then. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Good night, Auditor Dread. Thank you for sticking around, and for everybody else, if you're tuning
Wait,
in later.
one last thing. We need to work this into the rotation. What? Brings us around to next Sunday, which is Hugh Jackman is in Chappie. Thank you. Okay. So that vindicates both me and
Aged Boomer.
Aged Boomer.
There he is.
Yeah. Well,
what about
honestly,
next Sunday?
That picture doesn't
deleted
necessarily
scene.
Look
You're talking about deleted scene show.
Yes, deleted scenes every Sunday before
or Aged Boomer stream usually.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So, but deleted scenes just dropped his link, so make sure you're subscribed to him. He's getting really close to his milestone, so please make sure you subscribe to him. Hit that notification bell, turn it to all, so that you know when he goes live on Sunday. And hang out with him before coming over here to see us next week when we will talking about who knows what we'll be talking about, because we won't know until the news happens this week.
Okay. Y'all have a good week, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.